Join in on the jam sesh as we rock out to our favorite 90s tunes. Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable 90s Rewind event.
Learn the inner workings of the multi-point inspection. Here's our partner beyond products, Dale Smith from BG Products.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Dale Smith is with us, the training program manager and BG University instructor. BG Products, as many of you know, are very much involved with the Fixed Ops Roundtable. They are the leader in the industry. It is a great honor, Dale Smith, to welcome you to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Oh, it's a pleasure, Ted. Thank you very much for having me on.
Dale, you do so much for the industry, and as does BG. I had a chance to meet you in person last year when we went out to Wichita. What tremendous growth BG has had over the years, and just to see the facilities and how they've grown, not just in Wichita, but up in El Dorado and the kitting facility, just mammoth state-of-the-art facilities you've got.
Yeah, it's something that's near and dear to me. If we're going to be true partners beyond products, which we are, we need the facility, we need the training, and we've got it.
Well, you and I have had many a discussion, and I noticed a little while back that you began a series with BG on the multi-point inspection. So if it's okay, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about that today, because Dale, it's such an important part of our business now.
It is. It truly is. Absolutely.
All right, so let's kind of begin, there. Why is that multi-point, the MPI, why is it so critical to what we do?
Ted, I believe in my heart why it's so critical and so crucial is because it is a tool that we can speak to the guest. We can speak directly to them. We can position ourselves of exactly what we want to do with this MPI, what the intentions are. Just like if we have a friend, right? We're going to let them know, hey, we're going to go out to lunch today and we're going to do this, this, and this. The multi-point inspection, if teed up correctly, the guest has everything that they need at their fingertips, and we have permission to come back and speak to their multi-point from real time, from the technician that performed the MPI, straight into making sure that the guest is totally aware with everything that's going on their car.
You and I spoke in the green room before we got started, and I remember years ago, 20 years ago, all the resistance we initially got when the multi-point got, remember when it first got introduced, the technicians asked, well, how is this going to work? Why should I do it? And the service, there was a lot of confusion in the beginning.
There was.
You and BG have helped clear a lot of that up, as well as the work at the OEMs is what they've done as well.
That's the intention, Ted, is to make sure that we have, the foundation so that we can continue to build on this every day. Is it executed 100% of the time, every single day? No, but we have to have a process so that we can move forward and be excellent in our guest's eyes.
All right, so let's kind of review it together, if we would, as you would in one of your classes, Dale.
Sure.
What are the basics of a multi-point inspection? What does our audience need to be aware of?
Yeah, Ted, the guest, once again, has to be in the know. So the basics are the stoplight method. It's a universal stoplight method, and everybody, whether it's just commuting to work or just in their day-to-day journeys, traveling around the city, we all know what stoplights are. So, we can start off with green. That means go, right? Everything's good. It's been checked, and it's good at this time. Yellow means stab the gas. It means we may need future attention, right? So, and then once we get to the red, that's a requirement. That's something that we need to address right away. But using the stoplight method, it keeps it very simple, and we can share the basics and the results with the guest after it's been performed.
And there's been a lot of tools that have evolved over time, and I know BG is the leader in some of these electronic tools. Maybe we'll get a chance in a little bit to talk about that, because now we have technicians able to report back to the customer on what they're seeing. And again, if you don't have a quality, it all begins with an MPI, Dale.
It does. It absolutely does, Ted.
Tell us about quarter time. What's the importance of quarter time?
Yeah, the first time I ever heard this term, I was like, well, it's got the word time in it. I guess that means get it done fast. So that's what I took away from it. But it wasn't until years later that I started to really think about what it meant. And through the industry, we got the chance to realize any human being that takes their automobile in for service, they have a time frame in their mind of what it's going to take. So Ted, if you and I were to take our vehicles in for a routine maintenance, chances are our mindset is it'll take an hour to get it done. I will be physically at the establishment for 1 hour's time, and quarter time. So whatever the time allowable time would be, I would have to say that the guest's mind of how long that they'll be there. Quarter time means a quarter of the time that they expect to be there. So let's take an hour, for instance. If it's 1 hour, quarter time means 15 minutes, right? And if the guest expects that they'll be there for 2 hours, let's call it 30 minutes time. We have to be able to get the results back to the guest and present them. And that's our time window to be able to present that in quarter time.
I know we hear a lot on the Fixed Ops Roundtable that it's all about the hours. It's about the hours our technicians turn. And many technicians are not the most eloquent of people when it comes to being descriptive.
Right.
Talk to us, Dale, a little bit more about why that descriptive language is important when it comes to the MPI.
Descriptive language really sets the tone. I have to say that without that descriptive language, the guest doesn't have a full picture of what they're purchasing. So let's just take, for instance, tires. If we were just to say tires need replacing, the guest is like, okay, I wonder why, and there's not a clear picture of why we're asking for their hard-earned dollars. If we use terms and do the professional route, something that we can say is your wear bars are up, the tires are wearing uneven, and the DOT numbers are out of date. These things, as we roll forward, it now gives the guest an idea of exactly what's going on with their tires so that they can make that assessment very quickly and say, you know what, Ted, I think I need to do that today. And then keep in mind, how can we pair a service with that? And that rolls us straight into our alignment to protect their investment.
The education is so important, Dale. I've met so many service advisors who don't know about the DOT numbers, on the tires, and that it's right there, but you can't blame the untrained, right?
Right. It's about training. It's all about training.
So in the work that you do, if I may, at BG University, I know you work with the distributors. You've got, I think I heard the number 800 folks in the field between the distributors and BG. Dale, nobody even comes, not even a fraction of that. They don't even come close. Right. So you work with them on a lot of these processes and a lot of this, in other words, communicating the language properly out to the customer. Yeah.
And Ted, that's just in the United States. So we do business in over 79 countries now. So BGU, it's everybody comes to training. We just had a gentleman that was in from the Philippines, and he went through our boot camp, which is everything that they need to know about BG, as well as he stayed for our service drive process. And it's from the incoming phone call all the way to active delivery. And he participated, and it was wonderful. And then we had a plethora of people that were from around the United States as well.
Your facilities, I mentioned, are state of the art. But if you don't mind, that BG University is really amazing. I've had a chance to, look at some of the facilities. I haven't been to an actual class in person. I've watched some on video. We've had a chance to meet Mikey, and of course, Rob Leary's been involved for, many Fixed Ops Roundtable. But you've got a great team there. And Dale, you really bring the training to life.
It has to be. We want to make sure that we're instructing so that they have a real life scenario, and they can go back out and help all of our partners that we do business with. And that's the intention, is to make sure that we're bringing something beyond the products.
I have a few more questions to ask you about the multi-point inspection.
Sure.
Before I do, the webinars, and I see that you conduct, Dale Smith at BG are conducting those. I get updates by email. Yes. Is there a charge to attend those, or
Nope.
Give us a little bit of the background on that?
Yeah, no, they're totally free. And the one that in particular that's coming up here June the 20th. And there's 2 time slots that people can join. It's 8 or 10, just in case there's something you really need to get done. So if you miss the first one at 8 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Central, the next one will air, and they're 30 minutes time. This one's going to be really special though, because we'll have a live Q&A. So directors, business owners, technicians, advisors will be able to ask questions live, and I'll be there to answer the questions.
Let's go back to the dealership. Talk a little bit about the technician. So here's the technician, and of course, as you mentioned, there are some dealerships where the MPI does not get done all the time, let alone an electronic one. But why is it important to plan your MPI route? Speak to us about that.
Yeah. So if we're going to be able to do it in quarter time, so as we mentioned earlier, it's just a quarter of the time that the guest imagines that they'll be with you at your establishment. It's very important to plan the route out, because if you don't, you'll miss your quarter time. Even if we execute a perfect quarter time and we get it back to the advisor in 14 and a half minutes, chances are the advisor is still chatting with a guest that came in, maybe doing a follow-up call or helping a guest right on the drive. So let's call it 20 minutes. And if we get that information back to the guest at that time, we'll be able to execute that. The technician has to have in their mind a route so that they don't ping pong back and forth. That is what kills quarter time every single time. So if they have a route, and if they choose a route of how their MPI is laid out, that's fine. But I like to start at one corner of the car and finish at the other, and then go underneath the vehicle. And then I can fill in all my notes as I'm going on the journey. So that keeps me from backpedaling, going to a different area and filling out my MPI sloppily and not correctly.
Which we've seen a lot, especially historically in the past, in the early days of the MPI, there was a lot of that.
Yeah, I think the term we used was stop pencil whipping our MPI.
That was the term. Yes, I remember that quote. What does it mean, our MPI? What is our MPI focus, Dale?
Yeah, so the MPI focus is to master our work area, whether it's on the drive or the technician's stall. If we master everything within that area when we're on stage presenting to the guest, while we're performing the multi-point, and then the tools that we're going to need to get the job done. And that's the first focus, first and foremost. So knowing the MPI blindfolded really helped me as a technician. If I knew every point that was on there, I could start my journey, and I had it in my head in the sequence of what I was supposed to do. So there's a lot of different MPIs out there, right? Whether it's an express, our quick lanes, or the main shop, but they all have one thing in common. All the points are on there. We just need to make sure our path is carved out, and then we don't waste any time. That is what I see in the field. So when I'm helping dealerships around the nation, one of the biggest things is if they can't achieve the quarter time, the route's not planned out and the tools aren't in place. And then knowing all the touch points that you're going to actually be able to touch on the vehicle, do your documentation, and then deliver the MPI to the advisor within the time frame that we're supposed to. Those are some of the best things that I can say when it comes to those areas in mapping it out.
Dale, talk to us a little bit about communicating the MPI to the customer, why that's important, when that should be done, because here we are, a technician has done a quality multi-point inspection around the vehicle, like you just described, but now we gotta let the customer know, whether it's all green or whether there's some, future attention, caution, that yellow, or red. Tell us the importance of that communication part.
Yeah, that importance is paramount, because the guest is now receiving information about their automobile. It's critical. At this point in time, they're really listening in to see if they can put these things together. And they don't realize that their advisor probably has a plan for them and is going to help them through this. So when we present our MPI, so if we've gone back up and let's say we're at the 20-minute mark, a fully filled out MPI that's done correctly with all the correct verbiage and what's going on with the vehicle can look a little daunting at times. So the guest sees more writing. They're like, oh my goodness, there could be a lot that's going on with my car, and I wasn't expecting that. So I love to walk up to the guest and just let them know, if it's green, we're not going to talk about it. That means that we're in good shape. I'll just alert you of what your next multi-point inspection and due maintenance for your mileage would be, and that's going to be my green section. For yellow and red, folks, I'm just going to focus on those things for now so that we can come up with a plan to execute the things that your car needs. And those are just the areas that I touch on. Now the guest knows it's okay and we can plan for this. And this is not a hard sell, but our whole goal as a fixed operations team is to make sure that we, A, give the guest a ride home if the car needs to stay over. If we've done our quarter time correctly, we can do the repairs probably pretty quickly the same day, and or find them a rental car, or schedule their next service that they haven't had time for today. The items that we found on the multi-point, schedule them 3 to 4 weeks out. You know, if it's 4 weeks, generally speaking, in our life, we get 2 pay periods under our belt. And if that's something the guest needs, they're ready to come back. We can set the schedule, make their appointment, and invite them back.
We're speaking today to Dale Smith. He's training program manager and BG University instructor at our dear friends BG Products. We're talking about why that multi-point inspection is so critical. Dale, we're hearing a lot on the roundtable now, especially the past year, 2 years, about a lot of electronic tools that help communicate between the technician directly or indirectly to the customer, so the customer can hear and see what the technician has found. And there are a lot of dealers now utilizing this video technology. I see BG now is squarely in the middle of that. I'm thinking to the fact that none of this happens without a quality multi-point inspection. Speak to that if you would.
Yeah, it's at the heart of everything. And to be able to see exactly what your technician is speaking about on your automobile, a great introduction. Thank you for choosing us. And then making sure that we always address the prime concern first and foremost. That's always something that we teach. Without doing the prime concern of what the guest came in for in the first place, we're not doing satisfaction to the customer. And then the second thing is we're going to review the multi-point inspection. And usually it's just to highlight areas that are good. We brush over pretty quickly. And then we get into exactly what's yellow and what's red. So future attention needed versus required. We're just updating the guest and letting them know what's going on with the car, thanking them for their business and choosing this establishment. And then the guest has a clear picture so that they can authorize or postpone their maintenance 3 to 4 weeks out.
And we're seeing a lot of customers now who come back like to get that consistency of that multi-point and that video inspection from the technician. Dale, they've come to expect it now. And
yes,
if, like you said, initially, if things were all green, you know, that's fine. But at some point, they're going to be calling things out. And the customers really like to hear from the tech, from what I see in here.
Absolutely. You know, I learned that at a very young age. Our service advisors would walk the guest back and say, Dale, would you just please review the areas that you made on there that were maybe some danger notes? And I'd say, absolutely. And that's where I got the start in my mind that the customer says yes to the technician every time, because now they have a clear picture of what they're purchasing. And, you know, it was something that was very near and dear to me. And I loved helping the rest of my teammates out so that we could get that work into the shop.
And you mentioned quarter time. Doing
Yes.
the quality multi-point inspection and relaying the information from the tech to the customer, we're finding, and I'm sure you are as well, that actually saves a lot of time waiting on approvals from the customer, because now we're using today's modern technology, which is the phone, right? What we all
Yes.
use for communication to get that word out and to get
Absolutely.
the approval and to get the okay from the customer so that the technician can start working on the vehicle.
Yes. Yeah, that's important. Otherwise, we're removing the car from the work bay and we're just getting the next car in there. And chances are the guest is going to have to reschedule if they come back at all, right?
All right. So if I'm a dealer or a manager watching today, and
Yes.
I want to get my team, the right people in my dealership, trained up on the proper use of the multi-point inspection, Dale, give us that date again. Tell us what you have coming up.
Sure. Absolutely. It's Thursday, June the 20th. It's at 8 a.m. and 10 a.m., the 2 time slots that you can choose. And it's going to be readily available for them. There's other dates. If they miss that one, we have some coming up in September as well, and then December. But the next one is on the 20th of June. 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. Central are the time slots. Jump on there. You won't be disappointed. All the feedback that we've got from directors and business owners that jump on there, advisors, technicians, has been very positive, and it is a great way to start thinking about your MPI and the process if you don't have one.
Dale, congratulations to you and BG Products and all the success you're having in the market. We're hearing a lot about advancements, new services, new products. Again, all about that partner beyond products that BG Products is. So on behalf of the Roundtable, Dale, thank you so much for sharing a little bit about the MPI today. Yeah,
it's my pleasure, Ted. Thank you for having me.
If you want to reach out for more information, everybody, you can go to bgprod.com, bgprod.com. You can get more information on your distributor who is available, to work with you. Dale Smith is also active on social media. You can reach out to him as well. You see I believe that's your email scrolling at the bottom of the screen, Dale. So you may get some emails, as a result of this.
That's perfectly fine.
But for the most part, everybody, you have a local distributor with BG Products who's very active, boots on the ground. And if you're not working with them yet, you need to take a look at all the amazing things that BG is doing for our industry and get on board that BG Express. So, Dale, thank you so much for being with us today.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Ted.
Dale Smith, everybody, from BG Products, here with us today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Greetings, everyone. I'm Dale Smith, BG Training Program Manager and BG Instructor. I'm here to invite you to a brand new webinar, Unlock the Power of the Multi-Point Inspection. In this webinar, we will review a live MPI in quarter time, where we will highlight areas of the exterior of the vehicle, interior, under the hood, and under the vehicle. Great technicians and advisors are always looking to level up. In this webinar, you will learn how to improve your skills and shop performance, as well as boost customer satisfaction. You won't want to miss this opportunity. Enroll and reserve your seat now.
In just 5 years, Fixed Ops Roundtable has developed a name as one of the most trusted resources for industry information and recommendations. Become part of the brand that's leading the way in retail fixed operations at fixedopsroundtablecertified.com.
Join us for our next segment as CDK takes us for a tour of their latest study of service shoppers.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. It's a great honor to welcome our colleagues from CDK Global, one of the highlights in the show. Kim Saylor is with us, Senior Director of Product Marketing at CDK. No stranger to the Roundtable. CDK is a certified partner of the Fixed Ops Roundtable. And I'd like to introduce everybody also today to Peter Kahn, who's the Global Head of Research. Kim and Peter, welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you, Ted. Honored to be here. Definitely happy to have my first roundtable, and I feel like I need some prop like the Knights of the Roundtable, but this will do.
As Kim knows, we have all those props and all those things, ready at a beck and call. So, and very grateful, Kim, to have you with us today, as well as Peter. And Kim, I'm excited about what you're going to be sharing today.
Good. Yeah, we're excited to share it with you, Ted. Thanks for having us.
All right. So I'm going to step out of the way. I'm going to let you take the show, Kim and Peter. And with that, here we go.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, everyone. So today we're going to talk about a research study that was recently done called our CDK Service Shopper Study. And just jumping right into it, every day you have dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of cars pulling into your service lane. and they need anything from, let's say, minor maintenance of an oil change all the way to something major like a rebuilt transmission. And so the latest NADA data that was recently released shows that new vehicle dealerships had over $142 billion of service and parts sales in 2023. And that's a huge number, but we all know that that's just a portion of the total maintenance and repair business. So I like to look at that as this is a really big opportunity for dealerships to grow their business. So that's one of the reasons why CDK Service Shopper Study is so important. You know, with over 2,000 respondents in our study this year, Peter and his team were able to uncover, you know, why service shoppers decide where they want to take their vehicles for service, why they choose a dealership, or why they may choose a chain or an independent shop or service provider. So when we did the study, what are the questions that we wanted to get answered? You know, we really wanted to find out what are the reasons that shoppers are staying loyal to the dealership service department? And if they're not staying loyal, why are they taking their business to other channels? And then along with that, what features can a dealership offer that will help them retain those service customers as well as bring in new customers? And then finally, what are some key takeaways that the dealer can consider, you know, based on our research? So kind of in a nutshell, you know, after a customer's warranty is expired, why do they stay at the dealership for their service? Or if not, why do they go someplace else? So Peter, you know, before we jump into the findings of the survey, can you tell us a little bit more about the respondents and who we heard from?
Yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at who we did hear from. And first of all, we went out and got a lot of folks to participate in this survey. You had to have your car serviced at least in the last 6 months. We heard from over 2,100 folks that had that qualification. And what we have here, and I'm just going to take you up to the top group, which is, you know, we have a fairly equal spread of men and women, a good spread of age, you know, by cohort, Gen Z, millennials, Gen X, et cetera, and a good spread of income. And that's all very important because we want to be able to understand who's responding to us. But what I think is even more important is, first of all, their attitudes. And that's what you're seeing down below there with that idea of maintenance. You know, how do you think about maintenance on your vehicle? And that gives us some really great insight on why somebody may choose a dealership or may choose another channel. And we want to understand behavior. You know, how many miles do they drive? What kind of vehicle do they drive? Those types of things. And again, that gives us an insight into understanding how they act, why they act, and then how we can influence their actions subsequently. So I'll give you a couple of fun facts that I think are useful that we got out of our folks. First of all, 40% of the folks that we surveyed actually had their vehicle service at least twice a year, and another 30% have their vehicle service 3 times a year. So these folks come into and get their vehicle service fairly often. Obviously, oil change is the big one, tire rotation is the big one, but these folks are, you know, do get their vehicle serviced often. 60% of the folks we surveyed, their vehicle was under 7 years old, mostly in the 4 to 7 year range. A couple other fun facts: most of these folks here, 43%, was the largest cohort. Go to the dealership. That's their primary channel that they choose. 35% to an independent and about 20% to a chain. Now, we did in this survey, we've done this a couple of years in a row. We started this back in 2020, all the way 2022, and this one in 2023. We did include the mobile channel. Now, we didn't hear from too many folks that get mobile service. A bunch of reasons for that, but we have a little bit of smattering. And I'll tell you right up front, you know, give the punchline away, that how folks are viewing mobile service and why they get mobile service is very similar to a chain. And I'll leave it at that. We may come back to that in a minute. 54% of the folks we did survey used to be under warranty, but are no longer. So that gets back to the idea that Kim brought up about, you know, understanding reasons for defection. These, at least half of them are not under warranty any longer. Now, 70% of the folks that were under warranty, we heard from them, but 33% who used to go to, only 33% who used to be under warranty still go to the dealership. So we go from 70% under warranty They're 33% post-warranty. So you can kind of get a sense of that defection rate. And then lastly, I want to talk a little bit again about that behavior that we brought up earlier, and that's down in that lower left corner. So we ask them, what's your maintenance philosophy? And you can see kind of the breakdown. Some folks are saying, hey, I want to keep my vehicle in pristine shape. Turns out those are most likely to go to the dealership, as well as those folks who do what's necessary to preserve the value of the vehicle. Then we kind of drop down to folks that are really concerned about saving money. They'll do what it takes to keep the vehicle running, or only what they can afford. So again, we get that idea of attitude that leads to them choosing a channel. Let's go to the next slide.
Very good.
All right, so now we're going to kind of get into understanding of how people are feeling about that service provider that they've chosen. We use what we call a satisfaction metric, Net Promoter Score. What that's about is folks that are very likely to recommend the dealership. We call them promoters or an independent, versus those folks who wouldn't recommend a channel, for whatever reason, something didn't work out for them, and we call those folks a detractor. We subtract promoters from detractors, and we get this thing called Net Promoter Score. Bottom line is, it's all about recommending your channel, your dealership, your independent service repair facility to other folks that friends and family. Now, these numbers that we're looking at, this is that Net Promoter Score. It can go anywhere from -100 to +100. Anything above 30, you should consider a really good score. So you can see here that, quite frankly, all three channels are doing a great job. Customers like what they're getting from those channels, but they're getting what they're seeing, and their high Net Promoter Scores is for different reasons. So folks think about a dealership, and dealerships are doing a great job servicing those customers for the reasons they went there. It's the same for the chain service provider. And you can see dealerships and chains have a very similar NPS score, again, but for different reasons. Now, the independent, that has a higher Net Promoter Score to some extent. When we think about how customers choose their channel for service, the independent repair facility, turns out they kind of straddle the middle ground. And so they straddle the middle ground, and they're actually doing a really great job of servicing the customer, given the customer's expectations for what they expect to get from the independent repair facility. And we'll talk about what those expectations are. The only other thing I would add to this is, again, dealerships and chains, and you can see those scores from the left to the right go from 2020 through 2022 to 2023. Dealerships and chains are very stable, but independents have been bouncing around. And I'll just kind of preview that. Part of the reasons why they are bouncing around is back in 2020, and we did this late in 2020, that was kind of at the start of the pandemic. People weren't driving very much, but then we get into the middle of the pandemic. That's that 2022 score. We think there were a lot of health and safety concerns there that may pull that score down. And then we see this latest score, which was done in mid 2023. We think inflation kind of had an effect, certainly on the dealership side, and that may have led to folks going to the independent provider. So inflation may have bumped that ISP score back up again. Let's talk a little bit about what those benefits are and how each how each channel provides benefits. And then we need to think about the benefits and how dealerships can basically co-opt some of these other channels and start to win folks back.
Yeah, so
fascinating information, by the way.
Oh, sorry, Ted.
I was going to say, this is fascinating and very relevant and timely.
Yeah, and so what Peter was just talking about with the NPS, again, similar scores, but for different reasons. So what are the top reasons that, customers taking their car to a dealership, for example? And if you look at this screen, out of all the customers that said they take their car to the dealership, the top reason was because of the existing relationship that they have with the dealer, which really should not be a surprise, right? In a lot of cases, they've bought their car with the dealership, they're servicing it, they may have bought another car. So it's because you are providing that great relationship and continuing to build on that relationship. That's the reason why they're coming back to you over and over again. And then if we look over at the independent shop, and it's interesting based on what Peter was saying, with their score kind of, up, down, and up again, price had always been the top factor for why they were selecting an independent shop over the dealership or over a chain. But this is the first time that the top reason is not because of price. It's not even in the top 3. It's actually because of good reputation. So, it could be a lot of, I go online and I say, hey, where's a place to take my car? And they're hearing, good feedback from other people that they know. And so that good reputation is the top reason. And then finally, the chain, of course, the top reason they stand out because of convenient location. So that's really no surprise. But let's drill down and take a look at, okay, what are the next couple of reasons why? If we go back, to the dealership, why are they choosing the dealership? The number 2 reason is because of your service staff knowledge. It's the technician's knowledge that brings a customer to your dealership. And that's something that you will have as an advantage over, both the independent and the chain shops. And as we move forward, that's going to be even more important. And then, of course, it's also because I can get OEM parts from the dealership, and as well as a good reputation. Those 2 are actually tied for 3rd. And then if we look over at the independent shops, the second reason is because they did have an existing relationship, and then finally a convenient location. And then if you look at the chains, it's all around kind of convenience, right? Convenient location, quick service, lowest price. So we only hear about price and the top 3 reasons in that one space. So it's pretty interesting to see why the consumer is choosing where they're taking the car for service. And as Peter said, when we talk about the NPS and how could you improve your NPS or retain more customers or gain more customers, it might be looking at, a couple of these reasons that are, in the other, falling under independent or falling under chain. What can you do to make something, you're not going to change your location, but what could you do to make something more convenient for your customers? When convenience is a big reason why they're, choosing a chain. So Peter, why don't you tell us a little bit about just the top features that customers are looking for?
All right, I'm going to get a little geeky here with my research hat on. And what Kim was just talking about is how customers are looking at different choices, different channels, and based on how they, understand what those channels deliver, they make those choices. When we think about features become the toolkit that you can use to, number 1, retain your customers, and number 2, use those features to conquest from other channels. So what we did is we took 24 service features that folks are using, folks have, and we put them to our 2,100 service shoppers that we surveyed, and we asked them 2 questions on each one of the features. Number 1 is, how much would you love it if you had this feature offered? And we get this scale either I don't care to all the way I would love this. And then we ask them again, all right, if we took this feature away, how much would you hate it? And so out of that, we get this idea of this kind of love-hate relationship. And it sounds kind of strange, but it becomes really important because thinking about, for example, Kim just talked about the idea of factory chain technicians and factory parts. We take that feature and we ask folks, how do you feel about that? And it turns out they love the fact that those features are offered, and they would really hate it if the dealership took those away. So thinking about the dealership, that's something that at a minimum, the dealership has to offer those features. But there's other features that the dealership may not be offering that customers say, I don't expect it from you, but if you had it, I would love it. And that's where we start to get into this idea of conquest. So thinking about that, and that's what I'm showing here, it turns out, and this is no surprise, we've already pretty much talked about the idea of how customers view dealerships with regards to price, that if customers heard from dealerships that they would get the guaranteed lowest price, they would absolutely love it. And so it turns out, that's probably the best feature you could offer. Whether or not you choose to offer is a whole different conversation. But thinking about your dealership and all the things that you offer, especially again the things that Kim talked about, factory trained technicians, OEM parts. There's other things we're going to talk about that dealerships offer that none of these other folks do that really win the hearts and minds of consumers. Guaranteed lowest prices would probably bring all kinds of folks back to you. All right, we'll go past that and then talk about some of these other features. And some of these things are really designed to kind of pull away customers from those other chains, such as express lanes. The idea of being able to get a quick service on your car without having an appointment. Extended hours, again, covering some of those areas for convenience that the chains may be offering, or maybe the independent service folks are offering. Valet service, again, that's to kind of get rid of that idea of location that the chains may have an advantage, or the ISPs may have an advantage. These are things that when we tested it with the customers, they didn't expect the dealer to have, but if the dealer had them, they would be highly delighted. So these, for us, became the top 5 features that if you wanted to, number one, retain your customers, but more importantly, conquest from those other channels, these are things that you want to think about. So Kim, oh no, I'm sorry, this is me again. Along with these features, we kind of want to know what the moment of truth is when a customer goes to a dealership. And we asked those folks that went to a dealership that were not under warranty, tell us something about your experience that made it absolutely great. Oh. And conversely, was there something, when you went to the dealership, was there something that was absolutely terrible? So thinking about the great versus the terrible, we can get a sense of how do we retain these folks? What is it that they experienced that made it a great experience, and that they would stay and they would be loyal and they would recommend? And what was it that was terrible that would say they would probably defect and they would tell friends and family, you know, I just can't, you know, go to a dealership anymore. So you can read, you know, on the left-hand side, a really important one is that video detailing, you know, what's going on with the vehicle. You know, that's something new to dealerships, and it's really paying off well. We actually just finished a survey of a whole bunch of dealers asking them about their strategies in 2023. What was the most impactful strategies? And it turned out video information of how the car was being serviced was one of the most positive outcomes of their strategies they did in 2023. So a big one. It builds trust. It makes customers feel like, hey, I'm learning about my vehicle. I trust the mechanics doing the right thing. And if I trust the dealership, I don't necessarily have a problem with the price I'm paying. Vehicle being delivered to my home was a big one. Again, not expected, but a delight nevertheless. Quick turnaround. Doing things that were extra. Again, something that the other channels may not be offering, but that idea of doing things quickly really, you know, solves the problem that the chains are, where you can pull customers back from the chains. The other side of that, you can see those terrible experiences, and a lot of that's related to price. The price had me frustrated. It was very expensive. Again, in an inflationary time, you know, that's something that's going to cause folks to potentially think about going to other channels. So Kim,
Peter, time and money seem to be the common threads in the right-hand column.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and I have lots and lots of comments on what was great and what was not great. At the end of the day, dealership customers love the kind of service experience they have. The thing that starts to irritate them is, am I being upsold? Am I paying too much? Do I trust that what the mechanic is telling me is the right thing? And again, using things like video, being very transparent on the charges, possibly offering a complete cost estimate at the time of booking. These are things that will alleviate that fear, that concern, and keep folks coming back to the dealership, because that's, all things being equal, that's what they're going to choose.
So before we wrap up, I just want to go through a few takeaways from this study. So as you can see, the first one, update. You know, service advisors do a great job today of, you know, shepherding the customers through the service process, you know, from the point of drop off till they're picking the car back up. But our research does show that, you know, both helping the customer understand their services along with keeping them updated on the progress can be areas that are improved by the dealership. You know, maybe an oil change doesn't need, you know, a super detailed description to go along with it. But if you start utilizing a tool that sends automatic updates to the customer, you know, throughout their service process, that's going to improve that experience. It also takes off the responsibility of the advisor if the system is doing that for you automatically. And then, you know, Peter's talked about, you know, doing the video. if you're sending a customer a video for every time they bring their car in for service, it builds that trust. It builds an expectation that they're going to have with you. And then when you do find something that needs to be repaired, it allows them to say yes much easier. I trust the dealership. I trust that technician to know what's best for my car, as opposed to, like some of the comments we saw on that last slide, that they just feel like they're being upsold. When you look at the second thing, promoting training and technology, there's nothing wrong with taking what is a strength of the dealership, which is those certified technicians, and marketing that. I would highly encourage you to, as you're thinking about your service marketing, make sure that your service knowledge and your technician experience is part of that marketing message. And, again, going back to those videos, that absolutely helps you market those technicians. It's the first time in a lot of cases that the customer sees, under their car and hears from the technicians. We have, a dealership near me that, they just can't say enough about the experience from the video. And what they were most surprised about was the comments and feedback from their customers about how much they appreciate getting that video. That to the point that they're even asking, about, a technician and calling the technician out by name. So, really creating a big value to that customer. And again, as we move forward and cars, continue to, become more complicated, and as EVs come out, you're going to have that advantage over those independent and chain shops. And so again, another reason to, now start making sure that your customers know how valuable that is. And then finally, talking about reputation management, there are some things that, that the independent shop, the chain shops, can offer that you can't compete against. Like if they have, 10 locations, versus your one location, that's hard to compete with. But there remains, an opportunity for you to make sure that you're building your reputation. Basically every time that customer comes into your dealership, maximize that interaction with the customer. Make sure you're ensuring that they're getting the best experience, that they're getting updated. Even to the point of utilizing a tool that can utilize AI to give real-time sentiment. So as, let's say texts are going back and forth in a conversation, that there's an AI component that can read that and notify you as a manager that, hey, you might need to take action here, so that you can actually respond to something before it becomes an issue and help you continue to build and improve your reputation. So, overall, there's, small changes you can make, and there's also, changes you can make utilizing, different available technology that's out there. But helping you provide that better experience for your customers and continuing to build, that relationship, and as well as improve your reputation is what you can do with these. So, if you want more information about the Service Shopper Study, you can download the white paper here. And finally, from Peter and me and CDK, I just say thank you, Ted.
Well, Kim and Peter, great job. Everybody, there's a lot of information in the study you've just seen. So if you are watching us now at the Fixed Ops Roundtable, and if you're registered for the event watching us live, I'd encourage you to check your email, and you will receive a copy in your email of the Service Shopper 3.0 white paper from CDK Global. That's in your email now. If you're watching us at a later time, you can go to the URL that's here on the screen. We'll put that down below as well, and you can download it there and get your own copy of the Service Shopper 3.0 white paper. Amazing information. It is fascinating, Peter and Kim, how video has worked its way into our daily lives, and now, of course, into fixed operations, into the service and parts department, and is accepted. And Peter is not only accepted; it's trusted, right? And it's something that the others don't have, at least not yet, right? So great information. Kim, Saylor, Peter, Kahn, on behalf of the Fixed Ops Roundtable, thank you so much. And a great thank you to CDK Global for putting this segment together.
Thank you, Ted.
Thanks,
Great
Ted.
to be here.
Everybody,
Yeah.
Kim Saylor and Peter Kahn from CDK Global here with us today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thanks, everyone.
CDK fits into what we try to do here very well for one reason. It works. The resources you have allow you to run a car dealership the way that it's supposed to be run. The CDK Fixed Ops Suite allows the service advisor to concentrate on the customer. That has been just the biggest game changer. It's changed the entire face of the business, both in customer transparency and trust. We're pushing right at about a 20% increase in CSI.
Without CDK, I don't think we could be as successful as we are today. We've had record months for the past 14 months.
We've seen a 30% increase in gross profit in our service department in just 1 year, and up 25% in our parts department.
We went from 1.5 to 2 hours per RO on an average to probably more like 5 to 7 per average on an RO.
We use CDK all day long. There's literally nothing that you can do that doesn't require CDK's systems in order to do your job. What I'm most excited about with CDK, the evolution of the product itself. I like the direction it's going. It's going to make people's lives even easier.
Learn all about how automated recalls can work for your dealership in the BizzyCar panel.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. It's great to welcome the team from BizzyCar to this panel that's going to highlight not only automated recalls, but a specialty being mobile service. Want to introduce the panel. They are Ed Roberts and Jeremy Stevens from Bozard Ford Lincoln, Jim Sabino from the All-American Automotive Group, Hunter Swift, and Michael Murray from BizzyCar. Everybody, welcome to the panel. Mike, I saw the announcement recently that Hunter came aboard. If you don't mind, give us a little bit of color on that.
Yeah, sure. Perfect. So, yeah, as mentioned, as BizzyCar continues to grow, we were fortunate to bring on Hunter Swift. He joins us as our Vice President of Marketing. Long history in automotive, probably knows a lot of the people that are joining us today on the call. But we're super excited to have him, in addition to a bunch of other people that we've continued to add to BizzyCar over the last year. So excited to have Hunter on the panel today as well.
Yeah, this is my first time on the Fixed Ops Roundtable, so thank you, Ted.
And Hunter, we've heard a lot of great things about you. So again, welcome to BizzyCar and welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. And Hunter, welcome to the world of mobile, okay? Because here we're going to find out all about it. So Ed Roberts and Jeremy Stevens over at Bozard, we thought we'd talk a little bit on this panel about mobile service, why consumers like mobile, what's the attraction? Tell us a little bit, and Ed, maybe about how Bozard got into it initially as well.
Well, consumers like mobile because it's convenient for them, and that's exactly how we got into it. We got into it because we realized that there's a pain point that 30% of, well, let's back up. Let's turn that around the other way. 70% of our customers don't service with dealers. We're fortunate for that number to be larger here, but across all brands, only about 30% do business with the dealer. And we could say, okay, well, why is that? But you really dial into it, and we don't honor their time. We don't do the things that they desire us to do. And then you add in these recalls. They may get a letter from the manufacturer or whatever else, but ultimately their vehicle runs fine. It's not causing them any grief, and to them, that's not an issue for them. So why take the time to go do it?
And Jeremy, you're heading up that entire remote services at Bozard.
Yep, that's correct. And it's definitely, customers love it. It's nice to get feedback from customers that is positive, that your guys were professional, they were friendly, they took care of my issues. I didn't have to leave my house. I didn't have to travel to a dealership. So the convenience part has been fabulous for our customers.
And Jeremy, you've got a very big shop there. I believe it's the biggest on the East Coast with 100 service bays. When I was out there last year, I believe Ed and the team had their 10th mobile service van. I know, Jeremy, you and Ed have been expanding that. Ed, where do we stand now, and where are you headed with mobile?
Well, the plan this year is to get 50 on the road, and we're closing on the 20 mark right now. I think we put 3 more on the road last week. But we won't stop there, and where that number ends up being, who knows? But it could very well be in the hundreds, maybe even a couple hundred. But ultimately, it's about taking care of our customers, expanding our market area, and taking care of our brand as far as our customers that drive our brand, and then that in itself builds our brand, the Bozard brand.
Jim Sabino, you're busy building the brand there at All American Ford in New Jersey as well. Tell us why you got into mobile and what your consumers like about it.
So the reason, a couple of years ago, I wasn't really a big fan. I wasn't a believer. I was a little hesitant in jumping into the pool. And honestly, I saw, and I've said this before, and I followed Ed and his social media posting, LinkedIn posting, and I've seen him on your panels here. And I started listening, and I just kept quiet. I started listening, and I watched his success, adding vans, just a huge success story. Customers buying into it, loving the convenience of what this service provides. And I'm like, he's onto something. He definitely is onto something, and I'm going to just keep listening. And we had, an opportunity to get into mobile service through our dealership, and the dealership level, the owners are bought into it. They supported 100%. We put a plan together, and we set the ship in motion, and continuing to watch from Ed and watch him grow his fleet. And he added Jeremy on, and we learned in the beginning the do's and the don'ts, and we made some mistakes, and there's no question about it. But we learned from our mistakes and came out the other end better. We've since expanded. We have a total of 9 units across our 4 rooftops that's on the road every day. And we're growing. We have plans to add more units, as Ed is. A couple of hundred is that's amazing, absolutely amazing. But we are growing. Our customers have received it incredibly well. The feedback has been nothing but positive. And we're starting to see reoccurring where people have experienced it on the first go around and they're calling back and requesting it. So all indicate, the proof of concept is way beyond it's done. It works. Full team commitment and the limits are endless. You can't limit yourself to what you can do. You have to think outside the box and provide a customer with some really great service, and you're going to win that customer over for a long time and keep them in your dealership doing business with you. So that's how we do it. That's how it's done.
So Hunter, every time we get this group together, I always take a lot of notes. And about 2 years ago, Ed Roberts dropped a phrase called trip value. And here's where I think recalls enter the scene. Ed, tell us a little bit about trip value, what that means, because there were dealers trying to make this pencil, and tell us your thinking there.
So there's different things that we do with mobile, whether it's go and put an SOP part on or special order part for the audience that may not know what SOP is, or go out and diagnose check engine light. There's drive time on the way out and on the way back, and we want to do as much as we can with that time, and that's what we talk about with building trip value is what can we do along the way on the way out, and what can we do along the way back. And that's where BizzyCar really comes in and helps us with that, because we're going to pass by other car dealers, we're going to pass by other places as well, and they can dial into, see what we're capable of, know whether we can do it mobile, know if I have the parts for it, and set those things up, lay all the groundwork for us to build all the trip value in that we need to make that a productive trip out to Mr. Jones' house without just going to Mr. Jones and back.
Yeah, that's a great point. You mentioned it, Ted, about just convenience. I think the number one reason that people don't get their car serviced or get the recall done is they're just busy. They don't have the time. And I think mobile service definitely checks that box off. But, as what Ed's talking about, you got to make it profitable. And the first thing that comes to my mind is Jiffy Lube. You literally don't even have to get out of the car, right? You drive over to the bay, they do the oil changes, but they're not successful and profitable over $19 oil change. It's all of the other additional things that they do. And adding recalls, adding upsell opportunities is really how you optimize that. So I love your idea of how to make this work, because that's the number one question I think I get from dealers is, sounds like a great idea. It can help me with my customer service, but how can I make this profitable? How can I make money from it?
But I really love what you were saying about defection rate and using it as a way to get customers back in. I mean, if customers leave, it's Cox does a study. The reason why 30% of those defectors leave is time related. Can't get into the store for weeks. When I get there, I have to wait. By putting a mobile truck on the ground, you're actually taking the biz to them. You're not filling up your store, right, with main shop services, and you're getting to them quickly. And it's a huge differentiator. When I bought my Ford, I bought it because the dealer had mobile. There were other Ford stores, but not all of them offered mobile. And I have multiple Ford cars in the driveway. So having that mobile experience was really great. It's a differentiator for people to buy and to continue to service there. And it doesn't hurt to have a mobile billboard driving up and down the road either.
That's for sure.
Jim, tell us some of the challenges you faced early on.
Sure. So, the scheduling, we have it kind of split up into like north, south, east, west. And the scheduling was a little bit of a challenge. When Ed talks about trip value, and one of our other dear friends, Mark Mickens, they also talked about trip value on other panels, and is a very good operator in the mobile service and trainer. So employing BizzyCar, partnering up with them helps that tremendously. So they help you schedule. They do all the heavy lifting of finding these VINs with these open recalls. As you know, Ford has identified 69% of all recalls are mobile friendly and can be performed on the truck on the road. So that's a huge number and a big advantage to work with the dealers and the end user, the customer, because it's convenient. You don't have to come into the service department. It's like going to the dentist, right? Nobody wants to come in and get it done. So we come to you and take all the pain points away. We're going to come to your place of business, or we're going to come to your home and perform that on site, on location, at your convenience. So BizzyCar tremendously helps that, because they find those VINs, and it allows us to kind of schedule the days and their dashboard and everything that they do, their technology and the AI that they use out there. It works. And every single contact and information that we get from BizzyCar has all the information: the name, the address, email addresses, cell number, the recall, the labor operation, and how much money each recall is going to generate. I mean, there's nothing that they don't cover that makes it so much easy for us to schedule, to navigate. The parts department, our mobile service coordinator plays a big role in all the information, working with BizzyCar every day. And it's so simple to use, but it fills so many gaps. And that trip value, when you're going from retail, from one customer to another customer, at any given day, you can have an average of an hour to an hour and a half of driving time. As you know, driving time is non-billable time. So you have to be very aware of where those trucks are going and what the distance is between each trip. When you get lucky and you work with some of your fleet and wholesale customers, you may have 2, 3, 4 VINs per visit. That works really well, where the van rolls up and that one fleet customer that BizzyCar maybe identified, or a used car lot maybe has 4 or 5 VINs that you can go in, do it at one sitting. So you have to be able to juggle that, which we do, but it's using their technology and their partnership has helped us tremendously accelerate the growth. And not only mobile, a lot of our customers that were BizzyCar generated come into the service department. They drive in. So it's basically, it drives revenue into your service department, whether it's through mobile, pickup and delivery, or the customer itself driving into your service lane. So, there's 3 different avenues, but they drive a lot of revenue in every day, every month, and it works. It works really, really well. But you need a committed team behind with you at your dealership to make this whole thing work properly. It really, and then you're going to be successful. And then you can add the units on because you worked out all the kinks. BizzyCar is moving there every single day. You're getting emails of leads, of booked appointments. They're done. It's done. They do all the heavy lifting for you. So you can easily add staff and advance on, knowing that you have this support behind you.
Ed Roberts, how long have you been on the BizzyCar platform, if I may ask?
We've been with BizzyCar for coming up on 4 years now. They've been a great partner with us.
Okay. And, Jim mentioned the mobile coordinator. And I think here's where Jeremy comes in. Tell us about the team you've built around to help make this mobile service operation, including recalls, so successful.
So what was great about the recalls, it kind of helped us close some gaps in our schedule. It just made us more efficient on that side. So just like Jim was saying, we get emails and, we're just following up those emails and scheduling that time for the day before. So it definitely helps us where we can still kind of put that in the right spot to be more efficient on the route. So it's definitely has helped that part. And when we have, right now I have a lead advisor and 3 other service advisors to help facilitate that part of it.
Wow. Ed, how big is that mobile team grown so far? How many people?
We're closing in on 50 people that's involved in mobile now, and but that's just getting started. That will continue to skyrocket.
Wow,
Hunter, it's pretty amazing to hear the growth, at these dealerships and how successful they are, not just with mobile but with recalls in general as well.
Absolutely. Well, and it's interesting. Ford does a really good job of outfitting their Ford dealers and giving them the Ford Transit van that can do all these services, oil changes, and things like that. But there's a lot of other brands out there who don't have the OEM support, and it's a little bit more difficult for them. But there are specific brands who have a lot of flash updates or security. Like Hyundai has the 993 recall that has to do with the engine immobilizer, things like that. It doesn't even require a full transit van. It could just be a Hyundai Tucson, and you have a guy that's just driving around and doing these updates, and it takes about 30 minutes. So I think, on one side you have, what Ed's doing. And then if a dealership hasn't got to that point, but just wants to start, it really doesn't require much. But again, it's all about optimizing your day, your route, and planning and getting those appointments so that that's just efficient, because you don't want a guy driving all around and not, spending most of his time driving instead of actually doing the work.
And Mike, I know you've helped set up the groundwork at BizzyCar. You work with several OEMs, manufacturers. Tell us about that. And I think one among them is Ford.
Yeah, sure. So obviously we do work with Ford. That's been a really successful partnership for us. And as Hunter and Ed and Jeremy and Jim, they're Ford dealers, so they can attest to the partnership that we have with Ford that's allowing dealers to be super successful. But we're also starting to see this pick up in some other areas. As everyone knows, we've got some dealerships where we built this out in St. Louis that are non-Ford branded, so Hyundai, Nissan. There's a number of other OEMs that are looking at and exploring this. I think General Motors launched something last year in the mobile recall space. So it's coming, and it's continuing to come. And on top of that, we continue to expand the partnerships that we have with OEMs, across the board. I think we've got over 14 of them now that we have direct relationships with at BizzyCar. So super excited about where that's going. And we also, as I mentioned last time, I teased it, we have a mobile app, which we're just rolling out now to dealers. That's to help make the route planning and the recall process that much easier. Because I don't know about you guys, but scheduling seemed to be kind of a pain in the backside when you're trying to run lots of trucks, lots of drivers, trying to get that coordinated. We've kind of solved for that with our mobile app that we're just taking out to the market now to hopefully make dealers be more efficient. So excited to help dealers continue to grow.
Ed, would you mind speaking to some of that? Because I know you were one of the early pioneers in thinking all this out with the logistics.
Well, when we started, it was all with spreadsheets, and there's nothing efficient about spreadsheets and trying to use Google Maps to figure out which way is the best way to go. And at the time that you set it up, you don't know what traffic's going to be like at the time that you do it. And having an app where you can redirect and move people around, it helps immensely with efficiency. And one vehicle may get done having multiple units out there. One vehicle may get done sooner at one stop than we had originally anticipated, and it may be able to relieve another one. And tying those things together where we can see the position of where they're at, and those things really helps with the efficiency. And the efficiency is the trip value.
Amazing. And if you don't mind, Ed, talk to us a little about the customer satisfaction, because that's really been another big incremental thing that you've picked up there with the mobile operation.
Customers absolutely love it. I mean, we talked about earlier the time that customers don't want to dedicate to having their vehicle serviced. Nobody wants to take time to service their vehicle. It's just not something we schedule into our schedule. And when we take those things off their plate, it just drives the customer satisfaction to the roof. And a couple of weeks ago, we put a post out there. Jeremy put a post out there of a tech team that had 100% for the month. There's not too many. 100% is tough to get in. There's a picture of 100% is tough anywhere in any part of the dealership. But this is an ongoing basis. This team did it, another team did it, and they do it month after month after month. And it's because customers say, hey, I didn't know this was available to me. This is cool. I appreciate it. It's an added level that they didn't expect. And but once they experience it once, that's the only thing they want going forward. So when we talk about expanding and how we're going to get all those, the more we introduce it, the more we're going to need to get out there and make sure that we're available when they need us the next time as well.
At Bozard, you literally break records. And here, I recognize the gentleman on the left. He's a technician. He's been on a panel with you and Jeremy here this week at the Roundtable. Who's the gentleman in the middle, Ed?
That is Bo Bozard. He is our dealer principal, and he's just as involved as the rest of us. He's supporting these guys and thanking these guys for what they do. It's one thing to ask these guys to go out and go to someone's home and communicate and be the advisor and the technician. But he's there showing the appreciation for what they do for us as well.
Jim, I see your many posts on social media talking about, you actually quote the reviews from the customers on mobile service. Tell us about that, because that's been a pleasant surprise.
It has, Ted. And there is as Ed just said, there is a tremendous lift in your customer satisfaction scores across the board. When our customers use any type, the remote experience, mobile service, pickup and delivery, and they let you know about it. And, it's not always a bad time, which is great. They let you know, and they really let you know because they had such a great experience. It's convenient. And that's the secret sauce, is the convenience. It's something that really hasn't existed at this level with a Ford dealership. And people are really calling back and requesting it again. As said, it's a reoccurring process. So repeat service. I want the mobile truck back to my house again. It's time for my works package, or, my tire light's on, or I got this recall notice from Ford and I'd like to see can you come to my house and do it, because I have little kids or I work from home, and this really tremendously helps me out. So Google 5-star reviews, as I talked about before, people tend to go on Google review and they give us a really high rating, and they just speak about their very pleasant experience and how happy they were. And they would definitely use it again, which they are proving now. So we're in the cycle now of repeat and reoccurring services. People are requesting it. So we are still actively marketing every single day through social media, through emails, through point of sale material in the dealership, in the service department, in the finance offices, in the sales department. We have banners and all kinds of little handout cards and email blasts every month. And, we do really well. And now the people are now starting finally to, hey, I want that mobile service. And then, of course, they see the trucks on the road every day, and they're out there. It's a moving billboard. So it's an advertising point. It's a retention tool. It's a customer satisfaction boost tool. And it's a revenue adding tool. So a business within a business, mobile service is like a separate owned entity. And it actually expands your install capacity in your dealership without adding brick and mortar. So that all those cars and vehicles that we're servicing off-site leaves open spots in the service department so you can see more, and you didn't increase your brick and mortar. So there's so many positive points on this. So many.
And Ed mentioned it too. He says once somebody has a mobile service experience, it's hard for them to go back. Well, think about how many Tesla owners, right, who were kind of the first to the market, who we're now trying to market into EVs that we have. And you're telling them that they have to now go from getting the mobile service with Tesla, having to now come into the store. So if we're investing all this money in EV and trying to do this and not keeping up with their expectations, we're not going to be able to even start, right? Right off the back, we're starting with a negative experience or a lesser experience than what they're used to.
True.
And Mike Murray, it would seem that every week in the news, I'm seeing another recall. And these are all big numbers, okay? That's not going away. That's growing with the technology in vehicles. So this really goes hand in hand, the recalls and the dealers who are now into the mobile service, it works really well, Mike.
Yeah, it's I mean, listen, all of us want fixed vehicles and want safe vehicles, but at the same time, there's an opportunity for us to take advantage of, right? To get ourselves in front of the customer, whether it's mobile or in the stores, people mentioned, to take care of the customer's needs, provide them with a great experience, however they want it done. And we just happen to use recalls as the hook, because one of the interesting things about recalls is all these customers that have opted out, TCPA, cam spam, etc., we can reach out to them because recalls is exempt from that. So we can drive those customers back in. As a matter of fact, I just pulled an interesting stat. In Q1 of this year, of the BizzyCar customers, 60% of the customers we scheduled in hadn't been into the store in over 12 months. 12 months. So it's a really great trigger to get them back in. And the pros like Ed and Jeremy and Jim, they know what to do when they're there, right? Post MPI, equity mine, all the other things that happen when the customer's there and in front of them, and great things happen. So super excited about where it's going, and not going to stop the recall train anytime soon from what I've been reading lately. So
yeah, 9 million new recalls were issued in Q1. And, for a lot of dealers, the process that they've had in the past of, investing in a BDC to call, and they're wasting efforts reaching out to people who no longer own those vehicles, or expensive mailers who, if somebody doesn't own that vehicle, they're never reaching back out to the dealership and saying, hey, dealership, stop sending me this mail. I don't own the vehicle. They just throw it away. And I don't know, Ed and Jim, do you know what your cost per mailer is that you guys send out?
From the standpoint of the recalls, the manufacturer is required to send those out. And then, so they get those, but they trash them. They don't do a whole lot with them. And our number's not on there, so there's not a connection for them to reach out to us to schedule anything. It's informative to them if they choose for it to be. But there's nothing that's still convenient about the letter, because there's nothing on there that says, call this number to schedule and blah, blah, blah. So there's not necessarily a cost to that, but there's not necessarily any value that comes from it either.
Exactly. I just look at it as waste, right? And then the struggle is the dealership can't control the traffic, because if you send somebody out and say, hey, there's a safety violate, a recall, and cars are catching on fire or getting accidents, the first thing is this fear. I got to go to the dealership. They come to the dealership, and you guys might not even have the parts in stock. So now you're having a customer service issue on top of that.
Right. And that's not that's not a quality service visit, is it? Ed, how's the quality of your Ed going on 4 years on BizzyCar? How's the quality of your service visits now with recalls?
Well, it's a matter of what we make them, and when we're not prepared for that customer, it ensures the reason why they didn't come to us to begin with. We're prepared for them, or we make it convenient for them, then it makes them consider us as the only option to do, or the only ones to do service with. So it's a game changer all the way around when you embrace it.
Jim, I've learned to come to you to help recap the panel, so I'll give you the final word today. Jim Sabino, All American Ford.
Okay, so again, we touched on so many really good, valuable points here through mobile service, remote experience, and the true value of finding these VINs with all these open recalls as BizzyCar delivers. It helps us at the dealership level navigate and schedule properly. It fills in a lot of gaps. It drives a lot of revenue into the service department, whether it's in the mobile service experience or coming through the service drive itself. Again, they every single point that they touch on, BizzyCar, you are provided with every possible name, address, email address, cell number. If it's a business, they tell you who the person they spoke to, the labor op, and the parts, if parts are needed for that recall to be performed. They have real-time access to scheduling. They see what parts are in inventory in your DMS. So it's a really good, they check every box for you, and all what I'm going to call is all the heavy lifting they take away from you, and they do it. They provide you with a finished product. We just have to execute the recall and submit it to Ford for payment. That's really pretty much it from that. Everything else, you still need a committed team to really, the mobile service coordinator, the technicians that drive these trucks, they're customer facing. So there's a lot, and you want to get these customers to really appreciate the service you provide, and you want that repeat and referral business to really engage in the next go around as it's happening. So, mobile service is a huge opportunity. it's a win. The customer, it will be your customer for life, and because of the convenience. Keep them in your loop, and that's it. Sales department love the service because it helps them close the deal, offering this service at time of purchase. It really is. It's a great tool for the variable side of the business. So thank you to BizzyCar, and thanks for this great panel with Jeremy and Ed Roberts and Hunter and Mike Murray. Thank you.
Hunter, if our audience wants to learn more about BizzyCar, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, BizzyCar.com has all the information on our site and an easy way to schedule a demo.
Great. Want to thank the panel here today, our panel of experts, Hunter Swift from BizzyCar, Mike Murray, great friend from BizzyCar as well, Jim Sabino, All-American Ford, and of course, Jeremy Stevens and Ed Roberts from Bozard Ford Lincoln. Everybody, the BizzyCar panel here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
At the Fixed Ops Roundtable, we're always innovating. Our revolutionary pop-up events have sparked a new wave of growth and innovation by cultivating community and culture. Become part of the brand that is shaping retail fixed operations at fixedopsroundtablecertified.com.
Grab your goggles as we go for a deep dive into how we can use the eBay platform to sell parts online with Revolution Parts.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. It's a great pleasure to welcome back our friends at Revolution Parts. Mike King has been a big part of the Fixed Ops Roundtable events, especially in the last year. And we want to welcome a new superstar to the Roundtable. It's Jensay Numa. And Mike and Jensay, welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Thanks for having us, Ted.
So, Mike, we talked a little bit offline in the green room. I know we're going to learn a lot today about what Revolution Parts does with eBay Motors. And Mike, I understand that Jensay is the expert on all things eBay for the automotive retail world.
Absolutely. We try to surround ourselves with the very best people, especially here at Rev. And Jensay just brings an enormous amount of information and talent when it comes to the world of eBay. So we're really lucky to have him on as part of the team.
All right. Well, we'll encourage our audience to ask questions. We've got Jensay here. A lot of information on eBay Motors. I know just historically, eBay attracts millions of customers who are looking for genuine OEM parts, accessories as well. And you've got a very unique proposition to help get dealers started there. So, Jensay, let me start with you. What are some of the biggest and best advantages of selling auto parts on eBay?
Well, I'll start off first with, when I first got into the e-com space, I was originally, I've been in dealership groups for the past 13 years. And when I wanted to get into online parts sales, I didn't know much about how to do it. I use Revolution for the past 8 years as my preferred platform to list things on eBay and list things through their web store. But one of the biggest things is that, when I was first getting e-com, I knew I had to build a reputation. I knew that was going to take time, but I knew if I actually used a platform like eBay, which the dealership I was working at, they were like, hey, so, I know you want to sell online. How are we going to do this? And I was like, let's open up an eBay store. Everybody knows eBay. It's already a popular place that people go to. And, one of the things is I did not have to have a reputation to start selling on eBay. I had to create an account, and that basically removed a lot of the barriers to start developing awareness to customers and actually bridging my dealership to different customers on marketplace platform.
Jensay, I know that Mike has a long background in retail, working in dealership. Jensay, I understand you do as well, and you started off. Well, I won't give it away. Tell us how you started off, and tell us how you came up through the business to be able to be here today.
Yeah, so I live in an area called Port St. Lucie, Florida, and there was a Lexus dealership that was opening, and I was just looking for a job at the time. So they had a parts driver position that was available. I applied for it, and that's when I started. I've always loved cars, always been around cars. My dad used to be a mechanic. So, I knew I wanted to be in the car business. So I basically started just delivering parts for the Lexus store I was working for, then moved into the warehouse, taught myself, obviously when you're reading part numbers all day long, then we started learning how to do inventory in the warehouse. Then I moved to the parts counter. And then that's when we started having an online parts conversation. That was about 13 years ago. And then about 8-9 years ago is when I discovered Revolution Parts, and I started seeing what they were doing. So I was a customer of Revolution for 8 years and used them as my preferred platform. Even though I moved to different dealerships over the years, I always, as soon as I went to the dealership, I was like, I need this platform to do what I need to do for e-com. That was like the conversation when I first started every dealership, that I was creating an e-commerce parts department, and eBay was always a large portion of the department as we had web stores and et cetera too.
And you were asked early on in that progression at the dealership, how do we get started on online? And you said, let's go to eBay and let's open up there and let's get rolling there.
Yeah, definitely. eBay, there's a lot of benefits that eBay provides, especially like a lot of the dealers I worked at, some of them had obsolescence. And it's a great way to offload your obsolescence, just because people are typically on eBay Motors looking for items like that. But, I know if we'll get into this portion of our conversation today too, Revolution integrates very well with eBay on a lot of ways. So just having that tool to actually list on eBay, I could, my first 3 years on eBay, I was just had an eBay store. When Revolution came in and I had the components working together, I was actually able to scale a lot better that way.
So what are some of the biggest challenges that dealers would face in getting started on eBay?
Number one is not making sure you learn the rules of eBay. Like, before you play a game, you have to learn the rules, right? And in eBay, I joke every time I talk to accounts here at Revolution, where I say I burned 2 eBay stores to learn how to have 4 successful ones. And the burning was my education. I did not. And now what I do here at Revolution is, me and Mike's goal is to teach accounts not to burn anything. You know what I mean? So you learn from our mistakes, right? But the biggest challenges was learning the standards and the rules, because eBay has a reputation. And if you're selling on their platform, they want the reputation to stay a certain way. So they expect their sellers to keep certain standards, to perform at a certain level, to honor orders, to have proper communication, to address situations if you're going to sell on the platform. Because obviously, whenever a seller doesn't handle eBay right, they're not looking at just the seller, they're looking at eBay too. You know what I mean? So I had to learn that, how to adhere to eBay standards that kept excellence on the platform. So,
and I've heard that on other platforms like Amazon and so on and so forth. Mike King, you've also worked long routes, as I mentioned, in retail, and you've also brought a lot of dealers, one or two well-known dealers, into the modern parts world. What did you notice about eBay that was so attractive in the beginning?
Well, as Jensay said, it's a great place to deal with obsolescence. A lot of the manufacturers have programs where they can market obsolescence, but it's dealer to dealer. So your client base or your potential customer base is very limited. Where with eBay, you're marketing to just tens of millions of people, and it's such an efficient way to keep the obsolescence at bay. And with as Jensay said, Revolution and eBay, we're tied together at the hip. We're actually the preferred partner at eBay. And we have tools within the Revolution platform that allow you to identify your obsolescence, much less your CDK or rental system will do, set parameters, and automatically tag it as obsolete, and then apply a special pricing criteria to it, and then push it up to eBay for the masses to find and purchase. So it's just a great tool.
And Jensay, dealers can leverage that Revolution Parts relationship with things that I understand, like on some waived listing fees, top store tiers, and also negotiated discounts. Tell us a little bit about that, because that's very unique as well.
Yeah. So when a dealer comes on to Revolution, they actually have an opportunity to be a part of our rate card, right? We have a rate card with eBay, and all of our accounts that are on this rate card have different advantages that it's past the average seller on eBay. And this was why every time I went to a dealership and I wanted to open up a marketplace platform, I needed Revolution, because to have an anchor store on eBay, obviously as a dealership, you can't just have a little eBay page. It's a business, right? So you have to present yourself a certain way. There's a certain form of professionalism that has to be presented. And to have an anchor store on eBay, which is what's necessary for the amount of listings that need to typically go up and et cetera, it's about $350 a month on eBay, and that's actually waived on our rate card. So it's a part of somebody's negotiated rates to be on our platform, is just having that already available. The next thing is there's listing fees. After about 1,000 listings, there's typically a fee that typically gets added depending on what package you have on eBay. That's all waived. There's also listing limits on eBay. Like if you're a new account and they don't feel like you have your feet wet on what you're doing on eBay yet, you might be limited to only being able to list, $10,000 or $50,000 just starting a new account. Well, on our rate card, you start off at $1 million, right? So the cap is $1 million of listings that they can put up front, being a part of our rate card. There's another thing called a Gallery Plus fee and a subtitle fee. Subtitles also help enhance sales. Gallery Plus is how many pictures you have up. So there's always fees on that. All that's waived about when somebody's on our rate card. So there's a lot of advantages on that. And also too, we have, like Mike said, we are a gold provider standard with eBay. So like we have a rep that we deal with directly, and there's a reputation we have. So we can communicate for our dealers, right? As long as they're doing the right things. But we can communicate for our dealers, at a higher level than just like a standard person that's on eBay, to represent for them.
Gentlemen, it would seem if a dealer is not yet in online, and they're going to need to be big time in online parts, it would seem a little intimidating to the parts manager who maybe has been in that position for many, many years, has been hearing about it from their peers. I'm thinking of things like the professional photos, the photo booths, the listings, the pictures, all the know-how to get started. Jensay, tell us what it's like. How difficult is it to get on the platform when you're working with Revolution Parts?
Oh, it's extremely simple. This is once again why every time I started an account, I needed Revolution, because what Revolution does is it literally, it pulls the live inventory and the obsolete parts, like Mike was mentioning, and it auto lists the listings for the dealer. It even delists listings whenever the items are no longer in stock. When it comes in stock, it uploads the listings automatically. So, it's automatically doing all these things. If there's photos and descriptions and weights and dimensions that are already into the typical catalog, it automatically is pushing that information over to eBay. It's automatically making listings. The pricing rules are already set, are pre-discussed when an account starts. onto eBay, and that information then pushes over on there. So like, it's very simple. It's not, anything, if you really want to make it work, it takes work. But our platform makes the work easier. You know what I mean? That's necessary to do certain things on eBay and marketplaces, and in my opinion, in general. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Mike, let me come to you. How can sellers differentiate themselves on eBay, and what advice can you give them?
Well, I mean, selling on eBay is just like selling on a regular e-retail platform. It's all about customer service. Great communication, good pricing. You don't have to be the cheapest guy on the block, but if you give the customer a great buying experience, they'll remember who you are. And that's really, you mentioned photos and things of that nature.
No.
That's not a daunting task, especially when you're listing on the eBay on the Revolution platform. Uploading photos, it can be done from your phone. I mean, it's that simple. 15, 20 seconds, you've got 3 good quality photos. You don't need any fancy gear. And you just snap, upload, boom, it's over. Great listings are easy to create. Great customer service, like Jensay said, it takes work. If you want to be successful in this world, there is a little bit of sweat equity, but that pays off in the end. I mean, people remember great experiences, and that's really what it's all about.
And Jensay, I like what you said earlier, that coming aboard with Revolution Parts through eBay, you really start off, not with the small listing. You really have a full-fledged. I mean, you're up there with in the major leagues now.
Yep, absolutely.
How about differentiation? I asked Mike about that. How can dealers differentiate themselves on eBay?
So this kind of lines up with what Mike was talking about with like photos and descriptions and your reputation that you build. There's actually, like, when somebody first starts, the reputation is eBay. But as time goes on, you establish a following on eBay based on how you handle your customers. When I was on the platform, I did little things like, putting letters in the box, whenever people would order stuff from me. So that way they kind of like could reach back out to me to order more things. We made ourselves really easily, readily available to our customers that were on a platform. Like I would think about eBay like it's a hub for people to communicate about things and to get your name known. So my goal was to be as known as possible on the platform, but also too, eBay works very well with, it works hand in hand with all the other channels we have at Revolution, our web stores and everything like that. So I would use eBay, but I would also let people know that, hey, we have everything, not just what you see in stock in my inventory. So it was a way to create great communication. My goal was for people just feel like they can talk to somebody. And it wasn't like I got bombarded with always communication from people, but I think people just felt like, hey, like, is this an actual dealership I'm dealing with? And that was a big thing, because sometimes you're dealing with companies and you don't know if you're dealing with that actual dealership, even though it says the name and all that stuff. And you're responding to emails, you're actually paying attention to orders. I was actually making sure that if somebody had additional questions, they can ask those questions, because, every form of communication can create another sale, and e-com or e-retail, like Mike was mentioning, is different from just retail customers that come in. A retail customer comes in, you're waiting for somebody to pull up to the dealership or waiting for somebody to call. E-com, they're in the middle of the night, something hits their mind, like, let me just think about if I can find this. Stuff like that would happen all the time, and it never shuts down. It's like business 24 hours a day. So I wanted to be available to create sales, and my last eBay account is still doing, it's about 150K a month, 160K a month right now on eBay, and they use the same practices, and they have a reputation. They're in forums now. They've handled people so well that they talk about that specific dealership all the time. And that was the goal, was to build a reputation over time.
I'm thinking eBay Motors, millions of customers. It's where people like myself, shoppers, go. We look for specific things on eBay. And I would imagine, you mentioned earlier, clearing out aged and obsolete inventory. I imagine that's where shoppers go also, to look for specific things on inventory. Can you speak to that and how that would help our dealer audience also?
Yeah. So here's how I view, and it's kind of like a strategy based on a dealer, in my opinion. Obsolescence is a no-brainer. That's a given. But believe it or not, it's so interesting how eBay works with Google. So if you type in something in Google, 9 times out of 10, you'll see an eBay listing, an Amazon listing, and also to a web store. So if somebody's looking for a part and you're on eBay, they'll find you that way too. So I sold my regular inventory. I sold things that were fast moving parts that were in a service drive. I identified accessories that I knew that I wanted to blow out that, nowadays, I mean, I used to work at a dealership that used to have like a retail center, with things that people in a service drive and parts market can grab. Those days are starting to dwindle. It's very rare you see that as much anymore. So that's where it's moved to, is online, and we sold stuff like that all the time, like accessories for all these cars, floor mats, performance things for vehicles. That was like where people would find us to buy those things regularly.
Yeah, and lifestyle items too. There's so many folks that want lifestyle, and where do you go? Even if you do have a local dealer in town, the chances, like Jensay said, of it having a retail store are slim to none.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Mike, you got to be online to make this happen. And online is where it's going. We could see it. So, gentlemen, in closing, I'll ask this to both of you. What else would you want our audience to know about Revolution Parts' role in helping dealers sell parts on eBay? Because it seems that the opportunity is very large. Maybe Mike, you first, and then Jensay to bring it home.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we've alluded to, the Revolution Parts platform makes getting started and staying ahead of the curve on eBay so much easier than trying to do it as a privateer. Not only the cost savings that you get when you're on the rate card, but just the support of the platform with the listings, auto creation, auto pulling them down. You can change pricing strategies at the drop of a hat. In 5 seconds, you can change your entire pricing strategy rather than having to go through listings one at a time and changing them. There's so many great tools within the platform that make selling on eBay it really is a simple process. And any dealer now that is looking for another avenue of income for the parts operations, they need to be looking online, and eBay is a great place to get started.
Yeah, definitely. So when it comes down to how Revolution Parts helps with the role, I would say, with Mike being in the space as long as he has, as successful as he's been building e-retail stores, I'm just trying to keep up in his shadow with the things that he's done, to be honest with you. Mike's done a lot. But I'll say, because of the conversations that we've been able to have with our CXAs here, our customer experience advocates that are over the accounts, we have a really good team that's educated on how to help accounts. And one thing that's really big with e-com, the reason why I burned 2 stores to build 4 successful ones is because I didn't know what I was doing, right? I didn't have guidance. I didn't have understanding of what to do, what direction to go in. And the team that we have here that helps the dealers is really good. And they've been leveling up majorly, constantly, with their education, knowledge on recommendations they give. We have consulting services here. It just happens to be Mike and I are part of that, right? Where we can actually have tutelage. I wish I had consulting services when I first started off in the game, where we actually can go over accounts to start discussing how to make settings, update their settings or operational strategies in the dealership. One thing that's interesting about most platforms, and I'm not knocking any other platform, but most platforms, you just have the platform, you don't have support, somebody that you can actually communicate with about what's going on. And here at Revolution, you do have that. You have the backing of somebody dealing with you quarterly or one-on-one, because consulting services or different suggestions. Also, Revolution has learned that, and is learning more and more, the things that we've been teaching, the algorithms of eBay. A lot of platforms have algorithms, and
Sure.
we've been teaching how to work with eBay's algorithms to improve sale and things along those lines. We've hired data specialists to improve listings to fall underneath eBay's algorithms to improve sales. So there's a lot of things that they have in place to position on how to work, how our dealers can work well on eBay. And also too, because of the standard we have on eBay with our rate card and how eBay views Revolution as like basically kind of like the example. The key is that we have to make sure we are constantly leveling up, which means all of our dealers have to level up too.
All right, you've got a great team. You got Mike. The team the folks I've met from Revolution Parts are second to none, and some of the things I'm hearing now, Mike, are just extraordinary. And Mike, the sky's the limit on the future of parts.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, without a doubt. And like Jensay said, I just want to echo that sentiment. Our team, our customer success advocates, we're meeting with them constantly, and we sit in on performance reviews with our clients, and they're like sponges. I mean, they just keep absorbing everything that Jensay and I are teaching them. So now we're creating a little army of well-educated people that all the customers on the Revolution platform have instant access to. I mean, everybody has a dedicated rep to watch over them.
All right, everybody, you've got the best in the business right here, Revolution Parts. Everybody, the future of parts commerce. We've heard it before on the roundtable. Parts sells hours. Gentlemen, want to thank Michael King and Jensay Numa from Revolution Parts. You can visit them on the web at revolutionparts.com. You can reach out to either of them. Their emails are scrolling on the bottom of the screen. I encourage you to do that. Ask more questions. And I cannot think of a reason why a dealer would not go to eBay through Revolution Parts. That's the way to do it with so much that you bring to the table. Jensay and Michael, on behalf of the Fixed Ops Roundtable, thank you so much for everything you do for the industry.
No, thank you, Ted. Enjoyed being here.
Yeah, definitely. Have fun.
Michael King, everybody, and Jensay Numa with Revolution Parts, the future of parts commerce, here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Take a moment now to pull out your flip phones to scan the QR code on your screen to vote for the Best Practice Awards that will be announced at the end of this event. Remember, every vote counts, so make sure to put your superpowers to use and vote for the top 5 speakers or panelists who you think are dabomb.com. And don't forget, you can only vote once.
Let's bring rock and roll to the roundtable. Drummer, count us in as we rewind and rock on with the Fixed Ops Roundtable. 5, 6, 7, 8, go!
Take out your flip phone and unlock your service department's phone potential with Car Wars up next.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. It is a great honor to welcome Ryan Pitz from Car Wars to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Car Wars is no stranger. Many of our dealers take advantage of the advanced technology that they offer. Ryan, your first time at the conference. Welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Ted, thanks for having me. I'm excited to share any insight that we can with your folks.
You know, while there are a lot of exciting things happening in the industry that are shaking the industry up, I can't think of anything more important than the phones. That's been the number one topic. And what's happening on the phones? What's happening on on the side of the guests, that we need to be aware of. And Ryan, I know that's the sweet spot for what Car Wars does.
Yeah, we really do. We listen to thousands and really millions of phone calls for dealers all across North America. And fixed ops is one of the biggest areas of emphasis and focus that we're seeing. So I'm happy to share today some of the insights that we've uncovered and some of the new technology that's out there today, because it's really exciting.
All right. So I'm going to step off to the side, and Ryan, the show is yours.
Sure. Well, Ted, one of the things I guess maybe we should do is just let everyone know kind of a little bit about what this is and where some of this data and insight comes from. So one of the things we do at Car Wars, the core effort is we track and record phone calls for thousands of dealers. And when we do this, we have human review and artificial intelligence that go in and listen to these phone calls. And as a result of that, we are able to identify insight and information in terms of what is that customer experience like, and what should a dealer and a service department in particular be doing to help ensure that customer experience is good, and that customer decides not only to do business with you, but to come back and to become a repeat and maybe even a referral customer moving forward. So there's a lot of exciting things that are taking place as a result of artificial intelligence and the ability to categorize phone calls. So Ted, if you'd like, I can take you through and show you some of these key insights and then some of the tactics that we see work well in fixed ops.
Take us through, Ryan, because a lot of what we're hearing from dealers are, you mentioned artificial intelligence, that AI. There are a lot of new tools that allow the dealer to have access to what the sentiment of the customer is, and what the customer, some common threads that an employee at the dealership may not pick up on those, but you certainly are able to.
Sure, I can break this down. Let's maybe start at a high level, and then we'll dive into these 4 tactics. Okay, and so when we go in and we listen to calls, what we find is, and we call this CRISP. It's an acronym, and I would encourage everyone to, if you're taking notes, you may want to walk away with this at a minimum today. And this is something that we teach both at the management level, but also at the staff level, meaning your frontline team needs to understand what does it mean to be crisp on the phone, and what is this acronym. So think of this, Ted. We're tracking millions of phone calls in service departments, and we know that departments that do these 4 things well tend to convert more customers and retain customers and keep customers happy. Okay, so I'll take you through each one of these steps. The C in CRISP stands for connect. So what we're really listening for, and what we know, is that a dealer that gets customers ear to ear with a qualified person who can help has a much higher likelihood of delivering a great experience. Now, that, as simple as that sounds, Ted, it's really not always easy for a dealer to do, because oftentimes what happens is they put in lots of stopgap measures to answer the call, right? So meaning, hey, I have a frontline receptionist, or I have maybe a service BDC, or whatever the setup is. They have someone who's able to answer that initial phone call and essentially say hello, but then that customer is transferred or is put on hold or goes to voicemail. And what we know is when customers are transferred or put on hold or they go to voicemail, they tend to not leave messages, and they will call alternative sources, right? They'll call other dealers, they'll call Jiffy Lube, they'll call whatever it is, right? They will call someone else. The next one is request and invite, right? Request an inspection at the dealership. So everyone on your team needs to understand most of them have the best intentions in mind, but what they don't do is they don't see their role as a selling role initially, right? So when a customer is calling in and they're inquiring about service, we need to acquire that customer or be able to essentially help that customer. 9 times out of 10, the best place for us to do that is to get their vehicle into our service drive so that we can have a technician inspect the vehicle, right? But we need to be able to handle all the most common objections and concerns that a customer has when they initially make that phone call. So the next step is we've got to train everyone how to successfully request the customer to take action, right? Most of the time, excuse me, that action is to inspect the vehicle. We can't settle for a soft commitment, right? We're essentially selling, and I'll put quotation marks around this, we're selling the commitment for time.
Yeah.
And as you know, everyone is pressed for time. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. It's like, this constant situation. We're vying for that attention. So what we need to do is we need to set aside specific dates and times in terms of what's going to happen. What are the next steps? And when is that going to happen? And then the last is pursue. Now, this is a really, really important metric, okay? This is outbound calling, right? Okay. So we know that you get customers ear to ear, you request and invite them to take action on inspection, you schedule firm appointments, and then you follow up with customers to let them know what's the status of their vehicle. I'm going to pursue them. If for some reason we weren't able to schedule an appointment with you, I want to be able to call you and get you to come in because there's probably a reason why. I need to keep you up to date on what's going on. And this, in a lot of times what we're seeing, Ted, is dealers and fixed operations are relying exclusively, almost too heavily, on text messaging, which texting is great. We're huge proponents of text messaging, but the phone is still a critical element, particularly in the service department, because of the experience you want to deliver with a customer. And part of that is you've got to have a human to human interaction, because it's really important, right? Like if you're out of, if your vehicle's not running, right, you need to have somebody call you and talk to you about what's going on, as opposed to just simply staying behind a text message communication. So what you'll have is staff members who start to rely exclusively on, they're trying to limit the amount of communication they have with customers, but it's coming from the wrong place, right?
Yeah, that communication over the phone is so important. If I'm the customer, I want to tell you what I'm experiencing. I want someone to know that. And I may not be able to do that in a text, but over the phone is important to the customer. No question about it.
So how about this? I'll take you in through the 4 tactics to fine tune your service department's phone performance and CSI, because what we really find is the phone is, one of your biggest channels for poor CSI scores, right? So, so let's just jump into these. What are these 4 tactics? The first one I'll touch on is about managing customer objections and requests. And this is really about customer acquisition and absorption, right? Does your team understand that the more you can schedule those firm appointments, the more you can overcome those common objections as to why customers don't want to come in, that you can, you have the opportunity to grab more and more market share in your market. Effective status updates really, really matter. This is probably the number one area where your CSI scores are going to be affected. And it's because people have mismanaged expectations with customers. And we'll talk more about that. One of the areas we'll touch on is how do you pursue declined service appointments? So most of the time when we have customers that have come in and they decline a repair order, or do we have a process to go after and follow up with those customers? Because there's a reason why they're doing it, and you want to find out what that is. Either one is the customer doesn't feel good about the experience they've had, or they were not prepared to make that decision, right? And we'll talk about that. And then the last is that you need to provide training and feedback to your service advisors and service BDC. So these are really the 4 tactics that we can dive into.
Excellent. Like it.
Managing customer objections and requests. So let's take a look at some of these specifically, and we'll do these. These are the 4 that we have identified. We've done this with thousands of dealers across North America. So these are some of the most common areas where we see defection. So, part of this is about managing expectations. So maintain transparency, build trust, ease call volume, and increase CSI. So one of the biggest things we see is customers calling into service BDCs or service advisors, and they're basically saying, what's the status update of my vehicle? What's going on with my vehicle? What's going on with my vehicle? Right? And they're blowing up their phones, right? And I've heard this. I heard this from a service director. He said, Ryan, in a perfect world, we should only really receive one type of phone call. It's an appointment request. That's in a perfect world. Now, that's not what happened, but right? Does that make sense?
Sure, of course.
Yeah. But what happens is we get behind here. And when I say we, meaning service departments, service advisors, service BDCs, they get behind on this, and they rely on texting exclusively. They don't set clear expectations of what's going to happen. And I've learned this early, and we've all learned this stuff, but like bad news early is always better than bad news late. Pursue declined service appointments. This is a big one, and we see this growing, particularly as the market becomes more and more competitive, right? So are you able to identify, particularly for service BDC, and make outbound calls to your declined service appointments? So don't leave money on the table. These are typically high dollar requests, valuable customers that need to be touched. What we normally see is we set time aside in the beginning of the month, and the middle of the month. Why do we do this, right? So the reason we do this is because what most customers who decline service, they do it not because, I mentioned this earlier, there's one of two reasons, right? Number one is they don't trust you. They had a bad experience. They don't feel good about it. And you need to find out why, right? So we call this isolating the objection. So when I call, I have to have this process in mind, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to isolate the objection. I'm going to help the customer and find out, hey, listen, I noticed you were here, last month, and we were, going to replace your radiator, and you decided not to do it. I just want to find out, is that something that we may be able to help you with when the time is right? And you're either going to say yes, or you're going to say no. And if you say no, then what I need to find out is, well, hey, just out of curiosity, Ted, is it something that we did, or was it, is it timing? And if it's timing, what they're really saying is it's price or it's budget. That's really what they're saying. So when we say timing, they're saying budget, because they were not prepared and they did not anticipate that they were going to have to make that repair. And so now what we need to do is we need to make it comfortable and easy for them to do that. And if you offer financing, if you offer, they can essentially prepare to have that repair done. You can schedule them out, etc. But you have a lot of service BDC agents and service advisors in particular who are not comfortable making that call, and they don't know the mechanics of how to do that, right? And so you're leaving a lot of opportunities on the table by not even having this process set up. And by the way, we see dealers that do this. They use click to call in the form of a campaign. So what it is they have a list of all these customers. They have this phone process in place, and now they're going to pick up the phone and do it. And what happens, especially when maybe you've got new people on your staff, they'll stumble and they'll kind of grind their way through it initially. But once they start to get success, they can rinse and repeat this process over and over. It's a momentum game, and they develop confidence. And then once they develop confidence, then they can really do well. One of the things we talk about is we also emphasize safety concerns.
Yes.
If it's left unaddressed, if a customer's going to resist, and I've isolated the objection. So I said, okay, so they're not saying to me, hey, it's nothing you guys did, right? It's not that I don't like you guys. It's not that, I have a bad taste in my mouth because I had a bad experience. It's that I was not prepared to do this, but I'm still going to put this thing off. Well, hey, listen, the reason I say that is because, and it's not in a heavy-handed way, the longer this goes unchecked, I'm just concerned because I don't want it to be a safety issue, and it could ultimately result in a more expensive problem down the road, right? So we just have to be able to comfortably mention that to a customer when we make an outbound call.
Sure. Of course.
And by the way, a lot of these techniques can also be used on those status update calls when you're trying to get permission for those repair orders.
And I'm thinking on the safety also, Ryan, recalls as well. We'll figure into that as well.
Oh, absolutely. And some of the things we're experiencing is, if parts aren't available on certain recalls, if we have service BDC, service advisors who don't feel comfortable making those calls, they just need more training on how to do that.
Okay.
All right, so great segue then. We'll talk about providing training feedback for service advisors, and we've talked a little bit about artificial intelligence, some of the tools that we've seen. One of the things we see works well when it comes to service advisors and service BDC, and really anyone, is they need to have an experiential. They need to have an experience, right? It's like learning anything, right? The more you can experience it, the more likely you're going to be able to implement it on the job. So one of the things that we've done is we've put together a simulation course where service advisors and service BDCs can practice in a safe environment, and they go through scenarios. And these scenarios are everything from I have to make an outbound call to a customer who missed their appointment, or I'm taking an inbound call from a angry customer who the vehicle was there and now they're saying, well, it's still broken and you told me it was fixed. We find that this works well, right? Because it gives them an opportunity to practice. And our goal is not to stump them when we train them. Our goal is to actually give them the best, highest likelihood response, depending on what the customer experience is going to be like. The other thing that we've incorporated is we've incorporated artificial intelligence and really what's called a large language model. So we've taken this curriculum and this process of CRISP, right? Connect, request an inspection, set, and pursue. And a lot of the techniques and the word tracks that I kind of touched on at a high level today, and we built them into this large language model. And because we're tracking and recording the calls, we now can produce call coaching on that. So if I'm, a service advisor at your dealership, I can essentially get targeted, personalized feedback based on that conversation. And what this AI is going to do is it's going to say, hey, Ryan, you did the following well, and then here are 3 areas that you could potentially improve on based on this specific conversation. And it's going to give me that feedback and that insight, and it's based on the steps of CRISP. So we find that this really, really works well. And then one of the reasons why it does is because A, people get to experience the learning, right? They get to practice. B, it's attached to their actual results, right? So adults don't deny their own data. Most of us don't, right?
That's right. That's right.
Most of us don't. So if you say, hey, here's a recording of your conversation and here's actual feedback based on that, I want you to go back next time and try to implement this approach and see how it works. And then as a result of that, you get a positive experience and you go, wow, cool. I'm going to go try that again. And this makes my job easier because, as you know, day in and day out, our service advisors, our service BDC agents and service directors and managers, they're having anywhere between 30 to 100 interactions per day, right? Think about this. And that means text messaging, face-to-face, phone calls, whatever it is, right? They're just being overwhelmed with so much of this stuff. So what we need to be able to do is to support them with training and feedback, but it needs to be done in such a way that they understand that it's designed to help them grow. And it's really designed to help them to deliver a phenomenal experience, not necessarily just to get the customer to acquire a customer, but to create an experience where the customer makes the decision to come back.
So Ryan, you've got the technology, you've got the training, you've got the call coaching. I can see why you're the VP of Training Services. You offer some services and products that really nobody has on the market. And this benefits fixed operations in a big way. So let me ask you, if our audience is not using technology and coaching such as you offered today, what's the best way to take the next step with Car Wars?
Listen, people are welcome to reach out to me directly. My email is ryan@callbox.com. I'm happy to answer any questions that people may have. They can also call us at 866-853-1972. They can also text that phone number, and we'll be happy to talk to them more about that.
Ryan Pitz, everybody, Vice President of Training Services, is with Car Wars, carwars.com. You can see his email scrolling on the bottom here and the phone number that you can call or text. Ryan, fascinating information, great technology, a great need for coaching and training, especially on the service side of everything that's happening. And I want to thank you on behalf of the Fixed Ops Roundtable for all you and Car Wars do for the industry.
Ted, thanks so much for having us. We're grateful.
Everybody, Ryan Pitz from Car Wars here today with us at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Might have noticed that the Fixed Ops Roundtable is on the move, and that's because we are now hosting pop-up events. We are on our way to a dealership near you with spontaneous events in amazing dealership spaces to highlight the hard-working people in retail service, parts, and dealership-wide. Stay up to date with where we are headed next by following the Fixed Ops Roundtable on social media.
Our next segment has eyes on your service department. Please welcome the Skaivision panel.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Skaivision is taking the industry by storm, and today we have an expert panel that includes Mark Queen, the CEO and founder of Skaivision, as well as Derrek, Haddad from the Sands Automotive Group. Ed Roberts is with us. He's the COO of Bozard Ford Lincoln. And David Blackburn, our good friend from the Scott Clark Automotive Group, is here. Gentlemen, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark, I want to start by congratulating you. A lot of talk in the industry about your product with Skaivision, how unique it is and what it's doing for dealers. We're going to hear about that today. First, Mark, if I may, tell us a little bit about Skaivision, what it is and what it does.
Yes, thank you, Ted. Great to be here. And Skaivision is a pretty simple app that uses a computer vision technology to plug into a dealership's camera system and let them define efficiency points. And really, so they don't, the goal is that they don't have to look at their camera feeds, that when something of note or of success occurs, that the app alerts them and does the work for them of digesting all that video feed.
David Blackburn, I understand you've been on the Skaivision platform for a little while now, since its inception. David, why did you get involved with Skaivision, and give us some of the backstory there?
Mark has been a friend of ours and a good partner at our dealership for several years. And he came to me 2 or 3 years ago and asked me about this concept. And I thought, that'd be kind of cool. Not really sure how it would work, but if Mark believed in it, I was going to give him any support he needed. So over a period of time in development, we talked about a lot of different things. And, when it got real, we went live with it. I guess the thing that most important to us is, the customer's time is probably the most valuable thing that they have. And it's the one thing they can't get back. And we, as dealerships, don't necessarily do a good job in appreciating their time and doing things to make their time more efficient, and by us becoming more efficient. So we went with Skaivision, thought it was kind of a neat app, and set up the cameras, went through a lot of different adjustments and tweaks and, moving cameras around. And what we've noticed over the past year is that I can tell you exactly by stall what my cycle time is. I can tell you who's where they're supposed to be, who's not where they're supposed to be. Our cycle times were about an hour and a half for basic maintenance services, and we've brought that down to our rack time is now 27 minutes on average, and that's on a bad day. On a good day, we're 23, 24 minutes. We've got basic rotations down to less than 20 minutes, and so I think we've shown our customers how much we appreciate their time, and this program has allowed us to improve our processes. It started by making the team aware of what we were trying to accomplish and why. So they all know that we're looking at these areas. They all know that we're focused on these areas, and the focus, it will just naturally spread to your team if you make them part of the process. So we've improved our processes. We've improved our throughput, and we've also been able to increase our capacity by about 20% over what we were able to do in the past. Just by, especially in Express where we focus on the most, just by making sure that we hold people accountable, we hold ourselves accountable. We look at this on a regular basis. I look at the rack time every single day, and it's just made us more efficient. It's made us better, and it's kind of instilled a bit of pride in with the guys, because now that they want to know what the cycle time is, so we actually post it on the wall for them. So I think this thing is evolved over the past year from being something that would be nice to have to, as far as I'm concerned, it's a must-have. We have it in all of our stores.
Mark Queen, I don't know too many dealers or fixed ops directors that can tell me the cycle time like that, like David just did.
Yeah, it is rare. And going into this, we had I think David approached this in a really good way by saying, let's set a goal of, I want to get a 10%. They were doing, I think it was 96 Toyota Care operations a day. And he said, if we can increase by 10%, you could get me to adjust my scheduler to where I can take, a little over 10, like 110 a day. If I could adjust that, we just need to find a couple minutes here and there. And so we were fortunate. David's store was already, you can feel his team. Sometimes you feel that vibe of they're plugged in. They want to get better. Everyone, there's not a lot of, it's a very positive operation top to bottom. And they once the advisor team helped us find out some things, they said, hey, could you measure if this backs up? Or could you measure for his store, the specific was at delivery. They've got an area that delivery takes place at where the customer gets handed their keys. And we were able to shave a few minutes off of that process. And David was proof that every minute can translate into dollars on the statement. So we've been very fortunate to work with him. In this whole, if you look at this assembly, these folks on here, it's really nice when you're the least knowledgeable person in a room or on a call, because you don't have to talk. You can just shut up and learn and listen and speak when spoken to. And so having these people come in and teach the cameras, because me and my team, our job is simply to be a steward of what do they know translates into better customer experience, better efficiency, better throughput, and take what their eyes have learned over years and put that into the computer vision camera system. And all we're trying to do is give a smart camera to a dealership. They've already got the cameras, but when they set them up, it was to really for security purposes, like you said, at night. Mm-hmm. And we're just trying to say, hey, they can be useful in the day too for efficiency and customer experience. And so, yeah, David's been huge.
David, I know the answer to this question, but for those folks watching who don't know Scott Clark, tell us a little bit about your organization, about how many techs, how big is that dealership? How many ROs are you doing? Because some folks, again, are not going to be aware.
Well, our Toyota store is 70 bays. We have 20 express techs, 12 express bays out of the 70. And we have 55 technicians, 20 advisors. We do 250, 275 cars a day. So we're about 5,000 ROs a month in customer pay. And then you add in the warranty and internals, we're around 7,000 a month.
So, David, these minutes translate into big numbers in a dealership like yours.
Oh, it's huge. I mean, just if I can get, I was getting 2 cars an hour through the Express. Now I'm getting 2.5 cars to the hour. We're breaking out, the simple services where we hope to get another 5 cars an hour per stall out. And when you multiply that times 12 stalls, that's a lot of money. It's a lot of cars going through, and we're still able to do that in about 60 minutes.
Derrek, Haddad over at Sands Automotive Group. Tell us a little bit about your organization and how you got involved with Skaivision.
Well, Sands has been in the Valley for 90 years, and they've got a long following. Skaivision, I'm going to tell you, I was one that was reluctant at first, even though I believe in Mark. We've had a long relationship with Mark. Wasn't sure how it was going to work. You see a lot of products that come to market that are clunky and not accurate and end up going by the wayside. So watching this work has been great, because with Express, experience is important. It's vital for retention. But revenue is usually generated from that inspection, and that inspection timeliness is very, very fine line. If you're waiting 5 or 10 minutes longer than necessary, you lose that client, especially when they're waiting. So we saw, an increase for sure in everything. We saw an increase in movement on the drive. We saw an increase in stall time, as far as, decrease there as far as time, and improvement, I should say, not increase. But it allowed us the opportunity to get that multi-point out faster, demonstrate it, sell from it, generate revenue, and move from there. So it's been great. The alerts are spot on. The delay is spot on, stall time. There's been some adjustments. Obviously, you've got to make adjustments along the way to start, but it's, didn't think it would be as good as it was. It is. It's helped us immensely, and it's pretty simple to follow. It's not a product that is built with a bunch of bolt-ons that you've got to go through a bunch of steps. You get an alert, hey, this car's been on a rack too long. And you can look at analytics. And really, we found the employees appreciated it. To David's point, the majority of employees like to know how well they're doing. They want to be graded, and so when you share that data with them and say, hey, your stall time's improving, you guys are doing great, they kind of walk a little faster, and they start to get a little competitive within reason to be better. So Mark, obviously we've had a relationship with him for years, but when he presented this and we saw his passion behind it, we definitely had to try it, and it's a no-brainer. I mean, there's no way we do without it.
And Derrek, if you don't mind, how many techs? Give us a little bit of the background again on your store.
Yeah, we're not as large as David's store. We've got 50 bays. We've got 42 techs. We run about 125 to 160 cars a day, depending on the day. We are a large customer pay revenue generator. We're the largest CP revenue generator in the state of Arizona for General Motors, second in the Western region. So big commercial fleet business. So good sized store, been here a long time.
Mark, I'm hearing a lot of success stories already. I can't wait to hear how this might work in a store like Ed Roberts, Mark.
Yeah, I think Ed's taught me a very valuable lesson over the course of our conversations, which is focus on the lens of the customer, see things through their lens. And I think that's one of the first use cases. We are installing Ed's store. In fact, next Tuesday, everything gets set up. And we are, yes, got that firmed up today. I think one of the biggest things that Ed had taught us is at his huge facility, if you had a 30-second heads up that someone was going to visit your house or ring the doorbell, whether they're expected or not expected, if you had that 30 seconds, what would you do with it, and would you value it? And that 30 seconds is a real 30 seconds in his case, where we can give the heads up that, hey, they're here early, late, or no appointment at all. They're here, and here's the deal. So we're excited because I've never seen an operation like Ed's. And by the way, Derrek didn't do his deals justice for what they've done from that Glendale Chevrolet store, and then what they did in Surprise with it, and what they've done with the key out there. He is his fingerprints, and he is, although fixed ops is definitely his passion. He's now the COO of that group and has a lot of responsibility there. So little self-deprecation there, Derrek. But when I went to Ed's store, and I'd heard a lot about it, and I'd heard a lot of hype, but when I went, I have never seen an operation, first of all, where you don't have to go, hey, can you log in the DMS and let me verify it's doing 15,000 ROs a month? Because it's definitely doing 15,000 ROs a month. And it struck me that at the Quick Lube facility, I immediately saw a Toyota, a Honda, a Chevy, couple of he's a Ford Point, and I didn't matter. I saw 7 or 8 different makes, and I saw that he was able to conquest that type of business. And then when I saw the teams working in the 2-person teams concept that he uses, and saw that throughout the Lincoln shop and the Ford and the Quick Lane, I knew that there is so much secret sauce. It's hard to duplicate there, that if this gentleman can help us lean in and teach the cameras what to look for, we're going to find some huge nuggets of gold there.
Ed Roberts, over to you.
Well, and Mark nailed it there. And we all talked about it. If we pick up 30 seconds, well, at our store, with the number of transactions that we do, pick up 30 seconds per transaction. We're picking up hours instantly. And like Tully Williams says, it's all about the hours. But think about what cameras does for us. And we think, well, what can this really do for us? Well, cameras isn't just about taking a picture anymore or taking a video here or there. Cameras is what allows our lane keeping to work. It's what allows toll roads to work. The traffic light cameras. There's so many things that cameras does for us now. And if we can pull that data off of a camera and have an understanding of who's pulling our service drive, we're introducing them by name rather than saying, hi, my name's Ed. What's your name? We already know whether they have an appointment. We know what they're there for. We tie in those other elements, and it makes us all more efficient. But even more than that, like Mark said, we talk about looking at it through the customer's lens. When I go and say, hey, Mr. Quinn, thanks for coming in today, it's a whole different experience than saying, hi, my name's Ed. How can I help you? And so looking at it from the customer experience, we're able to enhance that so much more and pick up time and turn more hours because we're gaining that asset of time throughout. And then also know when someone is disengaged as well with the gesture recognition, right? Recognition. We can look out there and say, hey, someone's having a tough day. And sometimes that tough day just means they need to talk to someone. And when you can pick those things up and go out and see them and connect with them early, what are we truly saving? We may be saving that vehicle from coming back again because they're not focused or whatever it may be. There's so many things that we can get from it. We've just scratched the surface, and it's an honor to be able to pair the team up with Mark, and looking forward to getting us going next week. I'm glad we got the confirmation there, but it's just an absolute honor to say, hey, this is something that can certainly take us all to the next level, and we can all learn from it.
Ed, what does this mean to you at Bozard? Give us the numbers again, if you don't mind. Number of techs, how many bays in that shop?
So I have 123 techs today. Tomorrow that may be 125 or maybe 100. Who knows? But we're certainly on an upward trajectory there. 98 lifts, 46 mobile units. I don't have all 46 of those mobile units running, but we're constantly gaining ground on that every single day as well. And we write anywhere from 350 to 500 repair orders on any given day. And with those things, it has to be a process. And anytime you can trim time from that process, everybody wins.
Mark, Ed is right. We have heard it's all about the hours. There's going to be a tremendous time savings here. Talk to us about that, and then a little bit about the gesture recognition. Tell us a little bit of how that works, and then I'll talk a little bit about that with David as well.
Yeah, the time has been the key theme throughout. Like I said, from arrival and even measuring arrival to greeted and write up, which is a new metric at most stores we go into, and then that arrival to rack time. Like Derrek said, that trying to get that vehicle on that rack quickly. That every few minutes you wait on getting that MPI video out to the customer is major. And then the time on rack that David's is so, all his stores we see. I mean, you can see the activity that everyone's engaged with that. Even though that's big, it's more, I think, the staging and greeting times, and then the time after the RO's closed in the DMS. That is when that that active delivery process and that lag sometimes is big. So when you string all those together and you just take a few opportunities here and there, it does add up. But just give them the simplicity, simple cells, and we've got to make it a simple dashboard. Like Derrek said, you can't, if it's just something where you can pick your phone up when you get the alert, tap something and see, here's how we're running today, week to date, month to date, just here's our true cycle time, here's our real time. And if I want to drill into that, fine. But the simplicity we've been focused on, and part of that simplicity has led to the gesture recognition's not an idea that we had at all. We saw in other verticals that there were equivalent of our technicians that simply, if they on their stalls had a camera and they could make a gesture to that camera and give whatever that gesture is, have it perform a lot of typing. Technicians of any vertical are usually not great with technology at typing and tapping and scrolling, and they're averse to it. It's part of the reason they are technicians in some cases. And they, if they can simply give a command and let someone else do all the typing and send it downstream to their customer or manager, that is something that we had been working with at David's store on a brand new vehicle. You've done a great job of getting them in for first service. You're preempting the independent tendency at that point. And it's pretty much going to be a green MPI, hopefully, on that first visit. So why not let the technician go ahead and give that signal, and let's fill out all the lines for them and send it downstream. And that's the first use case we're looking at. We've seen a lot. I mean, on the variable side, those folks don't like to get up from the customer and leave them to go approach the desk manager and ask for the discount or what have you. So they want a gesture that signifies that a manager's needed over there. And like Ed said, we can see if a customer has been waiting too long in a waiting room. We've got some stores we've got one BMW store that said it's made a huge difference in how they even lay out their waiting room and what their approach is with customers and updating them, because we can see if somebody gets lost in the sauce and they sit there for an hour and a half and they weren't touched. And everybody stays so busy. All our advisors and techs and managers are so busy every day that sometimes they just need a little nudge, because we see that there is some type of nudge, whether it's to the advisor, the shop foreman, the manager, the tech. Some little course correction is applicable to about 1 in 10 express services where Murphy's law raises its head and hits you with the inevitable delay of some sort. And if you just know that, it can be corrected very quickly, preemptively. But if it adds up to these long experiences, I told you, we want to make it so that no service manager has to look at video feeds and waste that time that we think is wasted time. And number two, we want to make it pretty much bulletproof that there's no such thing as the 2 or 3 hour debacle oil change, that you had to have ignored several alerts along the way to end up with that result. And most service departments certainly have the cameras already in place, that if they were smart cameras and they could tell them what they want to know, there is no reason that the 3 hour oil change could not be avoided completely.
David Blackburn, tell us more. There's a lot in store here, I can tell, with Skaivision.
Well, we probably do close to 1,000 Toyota Care services a month. And what Toyota Care is, it's the first 5 maintenances on a vehicle, and they're completely free. And a lot of times we found that customers don't want to come in and get those because we take too long to do them. So we set a goal of 70% of those out in less than an hour. And you know that the first 3 services, there's very little likelihood of you having to have anything to sell to the customer or to recommend to the customer. So it's going to be almost always green. But they still have to go to our tablets and type that in. So if I get a guy to look at the camera and do this, and then it automatically fills out that MPI, then we're ready to invoice that car oftentimes before it comes off the rack. And it's just amazing that, right now we're sitting at just under 80% in less than 59 minutes. So we've made a lot of improvement. Mark said we were at 96. We wanted to get to 10%. We're actually up to 120 per day on our schedule, and that's about 85% of what we could do. We always leave a little room for walk-ins. So it's just, and it makes you look at things like, are you parking your cars in the right place? Are you staging your cars in the right place? You have to be open to every single aspect. If you really, really want to save time and make it more efficient for the customer, you've got to think outside of the box. I mean, we simply moved the parking lot. We rearranged what could go in this parking lot, and that picked up 2 or 3 minutes there. So you put it all together, and we're getting our customers out in well under an hour. And I think they're happy for it. Our customer satisfaction scores are good. Our retention scores are good. Our people are happy. Our customers are happy. So, I mean, like I said earlier, this is a must-have. It's a game changer.
Derrek, Haddad, I'm hearing all this information. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, well, David touched on something of where a lot of stores we go into, it's not a process adjustment like moving the car wash to step 2 or taking the active delivery person that's responsible for handing the keys and shifting that. Oftentimes, it's alerting to the current process that is really not being followed near 100%, especially at active delivery. When he says, when you look at cars where they're being parked, staging or delivery, sometimes it's Wild West, and it can just swing out of whack just a little bit and stay that way, or get worse to where you're not delivering them where the process says that, camera's not even catching 30% of your active deliveries, and you didn't know that. And so sometimes it's just pointing out what is not being followed in the current process that's on paper, and it's not even an adjustment to the process that can create the time.
Derrek, I apologize. Would you like to speak to some of this?
Yeah, I think the Skaivision kind of represents adding 2 or 3 people to manage your process. I mean, honestly, it's having someone on the drive, watching the cars move fast, having someone watch the racks and make sure, cars are coming off the racks fast, and then having someone at the delivery area. I mean, it's almost representing 3 additional staff members. In the aspect of what the consumer wants, I mean, in Phoenix, the largest shopped item is a car wash. Behind it is an oil change. Largest defect in customer experience is from the oil change. It's too long, too much. And so we try to make it painless with being efficient, but also value for the time. So that's why I go back into the multi-point. I think if we can get to that multi-point faster, it allows us more justification of their time. It allows them to say, I'm not only here for draining my oil, adding new oil, and getting down the road. They're actually doing a comprehensive inspection, and they got it back to me pretty quick, and we reviewed it, which helped consume that. It created an intermission of time, right? And on the delivery side, it helps a lot because, consumers have left. Sometimes they're waiting and they're gone, and the camera's letting us know, hey, that car's still there. And it gets that car out of there. We move that car. We call the client, hey, we've been looking for you, your car's ready, as opposed to that car sitting there for 3 hours. And it's maybe taking up a spot that we need. So like I say, I was reluctant at first. I'm an old-fashioned guy, boots on the ground. I told Mark, I said, Mark, cameras don't represent people. But he proved me wrong because the alerts keep us on our toes, and our customers, we've increased rack time. We've decreased rack time by over 10 minutes.
Ed Roberts, I look forward to hearing how this is going to work at your organization.
Well, let's talk about a couple of things that was brought up that we can recognize that someone's been in the lounge for 3 hours or whatever the situation may be. And when is the best time to make a situation right? And the best time is right now. And so without that recognition and the customer leaves, we just ensured to them everything that they thought about us coming in. We take too long, we're too expensive, we're this, we're that. But when we can make it right on the spot because we've recognized it early on and we can make it right then, and that allows us to overcome those obstacles. But we can, if we find out they're upset and we give it to them or we give them the next one or whatever, we're just forced them to go back through our thing. As David said earlier, customers don't come in for the services that are free because they already think we take too long. We can, when we're taking time off of the write-up process and we're taking time off the inspection process and we're taking those, David's up over 20% going from 96 a day to over 120 a day. and I don't think he's done yet. And anything that we can do to raise that efficiency, we all win. But in the end, the one that really wins is we respected our customers' time. And when we respect their time, that's when we truly all win.
Mark, in our closing minutes here, it sounds like you've got a game changer here with Skaivision.
Well, Derrek said that he was reluctant, which is true. Change aversion is human nature. But what he didn't say is he's always wanting to get better. And so he did do it and try it. And that's the biggest thing, because we believe that there's nothing better than the human eyes for detecting a problem and understanding a guy's situation. We think there's nothing better than the human brain for solving a problem. The issue is you can't be everywhere all the time. And there's no way to inspect the result of every transaction that you expect a result from. So we're just trying to provide the little army of assistants that Derrek alluded to, and make people's lives a little bit better. So we're going to continue to try and get a little bit better every day, and we're trying to practice what we preach of saving the dealer's minute here and there, and not taking long to roll out. And we're doing weekly releases to make this better.
So Mark Queen, CEO and founder at Skaivision, Fixed Ops Roundtable audience watching today, who wants to learn more about creating these efficiencies like we're hearing about today. Mark, what's the best way for our audience to learn more and find out about Skaivision and how they can possibly get involved and get their questions answered as well?
They can just go to skaivision.com, or they can call 855 for Sky, and the best way to do it is to take 10 minutes and jump online with us, and then we come out for a free look at your facility and your camera setup and what you've got there, and really just a quick visit on. Usually, most service managers kind of suspect where they might have bottlenecks or what could be improved, but nothing like objective data to hammer that buy-in home with the team. So normally a quick site walk of the process with the service manager and tapping in and looking at their existing camera system, we can design a pretty quick, very quick. In fact, these days, pretty much every install we're doing, we're almost insisting that, hey, you start really simple, 2 use cases, 2 cameras. Let's get the entrance, let's get the exit, let's marry it to the DMS, let's understand the reality of the cycle time. And if the manager is willing to step on the scales and take that look in the mirror at what real time is, normally it flows very organically from there.
I want to thank the panel for being with us here today. Derrek Haddad from Sands Automotive Group, Ed Roberts from Bozard Ford Lincoln, David Blackburn from Scott Clark Automotive Group, Mark Queen from Skaivision. I think you got something here pretty big.
Thank you, sir. With the help of gentlemen like these, it definitely could be, because that's the key to our success is their insight.
Everybody learn more about Skaivision. Visit them online at skaivision.com, and more information to come here on the Roundtable. The team from Skaivision, the expert A-list panel, here with us today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Severe versus normal driving. Are you a normal driver, or do you drive in severe conditions? The answer may surprise you. Many common normal driving actions, such as going to work, dropping off kids at school, or going on vacation, can all be considered severe driving by a vehicle's manufacturer. You are causing your vehicle to need additional maintenance beyond what the manufacturer suggests. If you regularly drive your vehicle in any of the following conditions: stop-and-go traffic, extreme heat or cold, fully loaded, towing a trailer or boat, engaging in frequent short commutes, driving in mountains or hills, and driving on dusty, muddy gravel or salted roads, then your vehicle needs a higher level of maintenance. Your vehicle's fluids will break down faster, and its systems will be more stressed. We offer BG Premium Maintenance Services with fluids designed to remove dirt and contaminants from your vehicle's systems and protect longer against fluid breakdown. Ask about our premium maintenance services powered by BG Fluids and Equipment today.
Learn about all things PartsEdge does for your dealership with the go-to parts girl, Kaylee Felio.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Sarah Vantine here with Kaylee Felio with PartsEdge. Kaylee, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so glad to be part of this event.
I'm really excited to talk to you today because there has been so much going on with PartsEdge, but I think the best discussion that we've been having of late is around technology. And so I wanted to ask you a few questions related to PartsEdge and also what you're seeing in dealerships. So, to kick us off, in what ways are you seeing technology be leveraged to facilitate better customer communication and better coordination between our parts and service departments and dealerships?
Oh man, there's a lot of communication tools out there, and there's a lot of talk on AI and how we can kind of automate a lot of things in the communication piece. I can't pinpoint one solution because I think the whole thing with solutions and technology is really vetting what problem are you actually trying to solve and finding that solution that's going to solve that, rather than going after like, oh, this is a solution I want, like really identifying what is that pain point that you're really trying to solve. Because then once you solve that pain point, then you can, go into more pain points because there's more than one. You can really drill down on that process.
Well, and you were talking a little bit about some of the reporting elements. And I know parts departments, when you have parts managers and parts directors, and they're thinking about leveraging technology and they're looking at that communication piece, it's understanding that reporting element that really dictates some of that workflow and what happens next. What reporting are you seeing that dealerships are underutilizing in their parts departments today?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I think with the DMS, there's a lot of data, there's a lot of information, and even the most seasoned parts managers drilling down on some of that data takes a lot of time because you kind of go in this rabbit hole of like, I want to see this, and then you start thinking of other things that you want to see. So what I'm really seeing is a lot of our parts managers are reaching out to us for specialized reporting to really drill down on their data to have just more of a open, bigger picture on what's going on. And the biggest thing is just like looking at those reports daily, weekly, monthly, depending on what type of report it is. That can really make the difference because you're actually looking at the numbers and you can actually make change based on what you're looking at. So that's been a big deal.
Well, and, special order parts, I know, have been a hot topic of conversation of late and really drilling into that reporting element and what parts managers are looking at. So when it comes to special order parts, it involves a lot of coordination and communication between parts and service. Mm-hmm. What are some areas that you see with, current processes? How can we optimize some of those efficiencies between parts and service?
Yeah. One thing that we're seeing, we identify special orders as for stock. So with our reporting, we're breaking the inventory. We call it the health of the inventory. What is selling, what's your excess stock, your for stock. But we're really identifying those red flags as the numbers are trending up. What can we do to help parts managers make that number not trend up? And part of that is sending them the detail of the daily review of the special order parts, so that they can have a process to monitor them. I think I've mentioned just setting a limit. When you have special orders, they can't exceed a certain day because there are certain manufacturers. I know with like GM, you can have a CSO 11 return. You pay a little bit to return it, but it does save so that it doesn't end up in the obsolescence category. So yeah, there's so many variables to it, and really just separating your forced stock into a separate source so you can really track it, and setting different phase-in criteria so that you can maybe even stock some of these parts and accurately test them is another component.
Now that's really great information, because you touched on some of the pieces with how long the parts can stay in inventory, and there are increasing numbers of OEMs that look at that and they say, this is the limit on where there's a free return or not a free return, and that obsolescence is an important metric to track. I think the other element that you touched on previously that's been really influential in that is that communication and some of the resistance to some of those changes when it comes to okay, how do we address this? How do we improve those parts getting put into vehicles and those customers getting the parts installed on these cars? So what ways would you suggest that management can effectively address some of those resistances, to new change or adding these additional reports into their portfolio?
Well, I think the resistance to adding the reports probably isn't as much of a concern, because I think a lot of parts will appreciate, the resource to be able to do their job easier and manage things easier. But I think just working together as a team to really, it doesn't stop with just ordering the part, because you don't want the part to end up in obsolescence. So working as a team to make sure these parts get on, think outside of the box. I think Ed mentioned, mobile service and just going to the customer and making it as easy as possible to get these parts onto these cars is just, what we got to do. We got to think out of the box to make it happen.
Absolutely. And I know PartsEdge, y'all have been really on the forefront in encouraging dealers to take on new approaches and new ways to get some of these ways for customer parts to be installed on vehicles. What other components does PartsEdge help with in dealerships? Are there other areas that you're seeing outside of special order parts that have been really impactful?
What's been the most impactful, I think, is the process to control the inventory. So a lot of times I get resistance because some parts managers rely heavily on their manufacturer programs, and they're great and they're there for a reason, but there's the big picture of the inventory. And I think the first step is just identifying what the health of the inventory should actually look at, so that you guys can work as a team to make a healthier inventory. I was just doing an analysis the other day where 20% of their inventory was active in selling and making them money. That's a little number. That should be a lot higher. It should be more like 40 or 50%. So I guess to answer your question, we're working with parts managers. I wouldn't say we're reinventing things, because we are using that DMS. We're just making it work more efficient and streamlining the process and saving a lot of time with that, because there's so many components to managing the inventory and testing things, and there's a lot of data involved. So it's a lot for a parts manager.
Oh, absolutely. And, some of the things that we've also touched on has been how other components can help in that parts business, in fixed operations and in BDC. So in what ways, how can we encourage better communication across our parts and service and BDC departments to collaborate on getting these vehicles serviced?
Oh gosh, I think the biggest thing is making sure that everyone understands what each person's role is. And I think you had mentioned it in the panel, and it's something I always talk about is, having parts sit in on service and having service sit on parts, so that really they can really understand what they're going through. And because there's so many assumptions that are made. Oh, the service isn't helping, or oh, the parts isn't helping. They're just, they're just ordering parts or they're not ordering parts. So I think just having that crossover is like the biggest thing to help with communication, because then they're understanding the big picture and why.
Oh, absolutely. And all of that at the end of the day, those KPIs, that information feeds the next steps in that customer communication process. Final thought, Kaylee, and kind of lightning round question. The dealerships are looking right now, it's May, and they're analyzing the last few months of 2024, and they're starting to think about the later half of 2024 as we enter into June and subsequent months. If you had to give dealers one piece of advice for them to focus on in these next 6 months, what would you say should be the biggest thing they're focusing on?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. Just experiencing the last few months, and a lot of conversations have been focused on expense and just really minimizing added expenses. I think that the focus should really be on efficiency and doing more with what you have, and really just looking at your process, fine-tuning things, making it as fit, because there's profit in efficiency. There's even if you're doing really well, there's always ways to improve, because a lot of times I know in the parts they're just in that firefight mode, and they're just constantly like surviving the day. And so when we can step back and work on growing the business and be more efficient, that's when I think things can really shine and make more profit. So.
Well, Kaylee, it is always a pleasure to speak with you. And if people want to learn a little bit more about PartsEdge, where can they check out your information?
Yeah, I would go to our website, PartsEdge.com. We have some free resources. We have ebooks. We are working on a lot of information and content to help just educate more on parts, because that's the number one thing I hear a lot is like, I know about parts, but I don't know enough. So that's what we're really striving for, is just pulling some more education out there for parts. And so you can get a hold of me there or LinkedIn. I'm active on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to connect.
Well, everybody, this is Kaylee Felio with PartsEdge. It's been a pleasure to have her here on the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Stay tuned. We have some more exciting segments coming up after this.
Obsessed with creating the perfect inventory? Us too. PartsEdge gives you the tools you need to outpace the competition and provide the highest level of service to your customers. PartsEdge is a powerful tool for parts managers to get the job done faster. Imagine what it was like when the impact wrench arrived. It made mechanics 3 times faster. Getting the job done without the latest technology makes it difficult to keep up. Besides all the other responsibilities you have, you work hard to have all the right parts you need when you need them. PartsEdge was designed by parts people for parts people to make that job a lot easier. PartsEdge saves you 4 to 6 hours every week and can increase your sales by 10 to 20% in just 12 months. Not bad for your bottom line. Take your obsession to perfection with PartsEdge. Call us today to find out what PartsEdge can do for you.
It's time to discover a brighter future together. Fixed Ops Roundtable certified partners can maximize their results with their products and market their certified partnership status. Start discovering your possibilities at fixedopsroundtablecertified.com.
This panel goes the extra mile for our dealerships with quick and efficient parts delivery. Join us for the Epicor panel with Elite Extra.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'd like to welcome our panel today from Epicor. As many of you know, we've talked at other Fixed Ops Roundtable events with the Epicor team. They are a huge technology player in automotive aftermarket. And we're going to learn a little bit today about Elite Extra, which is a part of the portfolio and a leading last mile logistics provider. So with us today, we have our good friend, Tim Hardin. Tim is the Senior Vice President and General Manager of Auto Aftermarket and Global Data Services at Epicor. Jon Ward, Senior Director at Elite Extra, is with us today. And coming to us from retail is Joe McBeth, the Parts Director at Dallas Dodge Chrysler Jeep Group 1 Automotive Dealer. Gentlemen, welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Good to see you, Ted.
Thank you for having me.
Good to see you all. And Tim, welcome back, of course. So, Tim, give us some color on what's happening here and set the stage for our panel today, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Ted. I think, the first thing I'd like to do is just back up, over the last couple of sessions where you and I have spoken, it's been a bit of an intro for Epicor into the OE dealer space. And we've been in the aftermarket close to 50 years now, developing data solutions and ERP and point of sale solutions in the aftermarket, getting the right part to the right place at the right time. Over the last couple of years, as you and I have spoken, we've begun to move into the dealer space because we want to make it as easy as possible for our dealers to be able to get to the parts that they need to create and delight their customers and create a great customer experience. But even before that, we had a question the other day that came up like, why is automotive even important to Epicor? For those of you who are just getting an introduction to Epicor, we're about $1.2 billion as an organization, and over 100 million of that is in the automotive segment, and it's continuing to grow. It's one of our fastest growing segments right now. And automotive is important because what most of us know is it represents probably 3 to 3.5% of the GDP, over 10 million jobs and 220 billion in revenue. So it's the largest manufacturing segment in the economy in the United States. And so clearly it's an area where we have a great deal of interest. And as we've looked at getting the right part to the right place at the right time, we understood that there was a gap that we had. Like we could help you identify the part, show you where to get it, but how to get that part from point A to point B, we really felt like we needed a transportation management solution or system that would automate that for dealers and in the aftermarket. Here comes Elite Extra. Elite Extra is the leader in last mile logistics, and we believe will be the tip of the sword for us as we develop a full-blown TMS over time in what we consider our cognitive ERP approach, which means like a really smart platform that can help you understand what to do with your inventory and how to get the parts on the vehicles as quickly as possible and delight your customers. So we're continuing to see these investments pay off. A couple of years ago, we acquired a warehouse management platform called Indigo. Dealers had a great deal of interest in that because a lot of them that wholesale parts have looked at how do they automate their warehouse. And now with Elite Extra, we're in over 800 dealerships providing these solutions with Elite Extra. John and Joe are going to talk about that shortly. But just to give you some color on the demand that it's created, our automotive segment at Epicor is growing year over year at 31%. And that's on a business that's already $100 million. So we believe we're hitting the mark by understanding what our customers are telling us and delivering those solutions to the marketplace. But that's enough for me. Let's hear from our customers and also from Jon Ward, who is our Senior Director and responsible for Elite Extra and joined us. So Ted, I'll throw it back to you.
Tim, thank you for the overview. And John, if you don't mind, take a deeper dive on Elite Extra.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Give you a little bit of background on the Elite Extra technology. As I'm sure we all know, expectations, from consumers when it comes to product delivery just as a whole has grown exponentially over the last several years or decades. And this expectation certainly is carried over to the B2B world and the dealer world specifically with a pretty big focus on the parts departments. And I think in like you had mentioned, Ted, we have Joe with us today. And I think Joe can certainly attest to the fact that when it comes to parts departments and technology, there never really was a huge focus there. And that's certainly where Elite Extra fits into the process to make sure to streamline the operation from parts order all the way through to actual fulfillment and parts delivery side of things. And as Tim mentioned, with a real focus on getting the right part at the right price at the right time. And so making sure you can still provide fast, effective delivery, all while getting visibility and accountability throughout the entire process so that you can meet and exceed kind of customer expectations. The customer expectations aren't changing. They're still expecting fast delivery. And with staffing challenges and all sorts of things that are happening within the wholesale dealer world and in their environment, that's where our technology really fits in to make sure that we can give operations
powerful route optimization, real-time delivery ETAs to their customers, and driver visibilities, so that not only are they providing a higher level of customer service, but they're also managing their internal processes more efficiently, being able to make sure that, hey, I can do more with less, so that if staffing challenges arise, I still can make sure that I'm going to meet and exceed those customer expectations, and really be able to grow their revenue by being able to offer up more part sales, maybe widen their geographic region on where they can provide part sales, all while being able to drive in efficiently and kind of have that air traffic control view. Because historically, when the part leaves the dealership, that became the black hole. We didn't know where the drivers were. We didn't know when to meet the expectation of the customers. Customers were asking, when can I expect my delivery? Historically, but pre-Elite, in the technology side of things, you didn't have that visibility. And that's exactly, again, where Elite fits into the process. And I had mentioned Joe a little bit earlier on, and we are lucky enough to have Joe with us. And so, Joe, I'm really excited to have you here today to kind of give us, I think, a real world feet on the street view of what does technology play into the role of what you're actually doing at the dealership. And so I'll actually hand it over to you, Joe. Maybe give us a little bit of insight into your operation and kind of what you're doing today to, to manage all of the things that you have to manage when it comes to a wholesale operation.
Sure. Well, first off, thanks for having me on this panel. I really appreciate the invite. And, with Elite, speaking to Elite Extra, we've been a customer of theirs or a partner of theirs for over 13 years now. We were early adapters, really out of necessity. Our wholesale business kept growing and growing, and we were hitting all the pain points that you can imagine in the delivery business. Orders were getting lost, getting left at our facility, and we weren't finding out about these things until late in the day, and a customer would call and, where's my parts? And everybody in the department is scrambling, trying to figure it out. And once we partnered with Elite Extra, all that went away immediately. It wasn't about saving money. It was about saving customers and impressing our customers with the service we had to offer. And, the phone calls stopped of, where's my parts? When are they going to be here? With Elite Extra, the customers have a portal where they can go in on their own and see where the driver is, where they're at on that route, and an estimated time of arrival. I mean, the technology is just fantastic, and it's been a godsend for us to have it at Dallas Dodge.
Yeah, sorry to jump in there, Ted. And I think, Joe, I know you and I have talked about this pretty heavily in the past, and I think you touched on a lot of points and benefits that really need to be called out. That, hey, listen, if you're looking to take your operation to the next level, or like you said, Joe, early on, just keeping the ship steady. I mean, you got to keep customers. You need to use it. Right. I think a lot of the discussion points that we talked about was you have to be using something. There has to be some sort of technology involved within the parts department to be able to maintain and obviously grow your business, from that point. One question that popped into my head as you were kind of going through that was, do you remember, a specific instance? And I know we're asking you to recall 13, 14 years ago when we started talking. But when you made the point to say, we need to look, is there technology out there to enhance our parts business? Was there a more focus of, you had mentioned it earlier, but was the more focus of we need to maintain or we need to grow? What was the driving factor? I guess I'd be curious from your eyes.
Well, our focus was growth, really. But we kind of hit that wall, with the technology we had or didn't have, doing everything manually. I mean, we were at a point where we just really can't grow anymore with, writing it down or taking orders, 100% over the phone. There's more technology than just Elite Extra that helps us succeed in this world, right? So we had to adopt all those different things, and Elite Extra is a piece of that puzzle that helped us get to that next level. Because, at that, 13 years ago, we were nowhere near the size we are now. We were working out of our dealership. We had, I think, 4 drivers. I mean, we weren't huge by any means, but like I said, we hit that wall and we just couldn't go any further. So we had to start reaching out for technology that, now today we've got 13 local drivers. We deliver regionally all over, Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana. We do all that because of technology. There's no way we could have grown to where we are today without it. So, and I guess that a simple answer to your question too, of when did that come about? It was, I kind of remember it. We had some pickers in the warehouse that they would set a ticket down, an invoice down, excuse me, on a shelf and get distracted and go do something else. And that ticket stayed there until 4:30 in the afternoon when that customer was calling, wanting to know where his parts were. That's how we were finding these things out. Yeah. So, once we really got into the technology piece of it, all that went away. And, driver efficiencies, route efficiencies, it's just been great.
And Ted, my background changed. I'm not trying to confuse the audience, but I decided to try and find a better connection so same clothes, different background. But one of the things that Joe touched on that I think is really I like to net these things out. It really boils down to the currency of time. And what Joe just described is we couldn't grow because there's no more time in the day. Like there's only 24 hours. Right. That doesn't change. And so at some point you do hit a wall with the processes that you have. And the technology really isn't about being super slick or cool. It's about, can I give more time to my people? And if I can do that, then I can deliver one more part, or I can expand the route a little bit further, but you can't do that unless you have more time. That's really the currency that we spend, in life in general. So I think that really what Elite Extra has done, if I were to net out what I've heard from Joe, just listening to him describe it, is we found more time. And with more time, we were able to find some growth areas that didn't exist before because we just couldn't get to it.
Jon, if I may, talk to us about some of the challenges that you're seeing and hearing from dealers like Joe and, honing in on what Tim just said, that currency of time. What are you seeing that are some of the challenges that people in our audience may be experiencing today that, we can help find a solution for?
Yeah, and I think the first thing that comes directly to my mind, and I'm sure most will agree with it, is staffing. I mean, staffing challenges to be able to have enough drivers, to be able to have enough pickers, pullers, stagers, to make sure that you have an efficient process. That's one of the biggest challenges, is just finding the staff to do it. And so when I don't have the staff, how can I leverage technology to be able to do more with less? And that's the biggest thing, is being able to do more with less. And where I think, technology really enables you to do that, because you're still going to have the customers. They're still going to be demanding, you get me my part and you get me I'm the number one person. I need my part now. And so that expectation isn't going to change. But internally, how do I make sure that I can still continue to manage and exceed that expectation so that I can continue that growth curve that we've been on, especially when I can't staff a full team from there. And that's where you start to really get down the rabbit hole of automation, and how do we automate parts of the process from delivery side of things and getting parts to the customers. Because, like Joe said, when you have a large geographic reach, you have those customers that they know that, hey, my part's going to get here this afternoon at some point because I'm going to be on the route. Well, you also still have those customers that are in your backyard. And so how do I on demand get them a part, and automate that process while still making sure that I can grow and exceed the expectations from those customers that may be geographically a little bit further away. So I would say the number one thing, that comes to mind when you think of a challenge is staffing, because whether you like it or not, parts delivery side of things, that's a top 5 expense for a dealership. And so you want to make sure that you can be as efficient as you can, because like Tim mentioned, time, and then time becomes money at that point. So when I save time, I can help make sure that it's going to go right to the bottom line.
Joe, you mentioned the pickers in the parts department. I'm thinking how many great automotive people started off either as a parts driver in the beginning of their career or as a parts picker, and how they've risen to the top. So Joe, speak to us about it. It sounds like you're using the intelligence platform and the technologies to really grow your business and to expand it. And Joe, where do you see this going? Because I'm sure 13 years ago you could not see where we're headed today. But now that you are the beneficiary of this, where do you see this heading?
Well, I definitely see technology continuing to grow in our business, for sales, especially, and customer satisfaction, and taking care of our, not just wholesale, but retail and e-commerce and all that. Every day I'm trying to find some way to automate something in our department, whether it's administrative or whether it's delivery like we're talking about now. The more we can automate, the more efficient we are, and staffing is lesser of an issue. It's super important, and it's more convenient for the customer, right? So the more technology we can grow, and with partners like Epicor, to have good data out there for our customers to look up their own orders, I hate to say, but that efficiency of just an order coming in versus having a specifier in your department, spending 20 minutes or whatever with a customer on the phone to look up that's a huge time waster. So if they can come in as an order, as a pick ticket, and the process starts, it's really just about fulfillment at that point. So we're always looking for areas to grow that technology. And to your point, I see it just continuing to get bigger and bigger in the automotive for our parts departments.
So Tim, at Epicor, you're able to replicate these efficiencies, on a large scale for dealers like Joe, utilizing the tools that you've got and that Jon Ward has there available as well.
Yes, we are. And I think that's one of the great things about the combination of Elite and Epicor. Jon and Jim Ward and the team did an incredible job building a great business with Elite Extra, delivering a lot of value to the marketplace, and it's only accelerated since they joined the Epicor group. And so we're super excited about our ability to take this wide and deep, if you want to call it that. And I did want to touch on one thing because Joe talked about looking for automation in other areas. We could talk about returns automation, and that's something that we just in the last few months have rolled out. And if you're a consumer of these kinds of services, so we'll step back from Elite Extra just for a moment, but if you're using an Elite Extra kind of platform, if you're not using returns automation as part of that, you're missing opportunities to drive efficiency and then drive bottom line dollars. So Joe, why don't you talk just a little bit about just because I know you guys have adopted returns automation now and the impact that's having.
Yeah, we have. As much as we dislike it, returns are a major part of our business, right? It's not just to getting the part to the customer, but it's the reverse logistics to get it back to our warehouse and issue a credit and satisfy a customer. Because, unfortunately, not everything is always needed and stays at the shop. So I was really excited and proud to be on a panel that got to go visit with Elite Extra and kind of start the blueprint for returns automation. We had several dealers there that, they really listened to us about, here's what we see, here's our pain points. Can you help fix these? And, and here's the product today, returns automation. And we use it at Dallas Dodge. We started using it 100% the first of the year, 2024. And it's been really good. Some of the customers are a little slow to adapt, but once they do try it and see the visibility because just like that delivery going to them, they see when a driver picked it up, when it made it back to my warehouse, when we scanned it in, when the credit memo was generated, all that unknown goes away for that customer. It's tremendous. I mean, it's cut out a whole nother pain point for our customers.
Sure. It's just like everything else in our lives, Joe. We can track it now, with military precision, GPS, where my part is.
Jon,
you want to speak to us a little bit about that?
I was going to say that we live in a world that thrives on transparency now, because when you wake up in the morning, just about anything you think about, you can, in the next 5 to 10 minutes, search and understand fairly deep levels of detail around whatever subject it is. And so this is no different. This is brought that transparency forward, and customers thrive on that.
Yep.
Jon Ward.
Yeah, no, Joe said the right word there. It's visibility. Being in the dealer space for the last 15 years, visibility and being able to manage and maintain the returns process, it's a necessary evil. I mean, we all know it, and Joe touched on it. As much as you don't want to admit it, it's something that you do need to address. And so, how can I streamline that process as well? Not only getting the part to the customer, but, hey, if it's not going to work out, how do I provide a better customer experience by picking up that part and giving it to them and giving them the visibility that they need, because they want their credit. The dealer wants the part back, and they want to be able to turn that around quicker. And so that's where a lot of the focus was on. And Joe was spot on really how the concept of returns automation started. It was, really just dealers in a room, just whiteboarding out the process and the pain points that have plagued them for years. And so how do you address that? And that's really where it started from. And that is one of the things that, I think that we really enjoy, is being able to partner with all of the dealers, because, guys like Joe, the parts managers, the drivers, the parts directors, the pickers, the pullers, the stagers, they're the experts in the process. We want to be the technology that just helps streamline that process from there. And that's where technology plays. As long as you can listen to the people that actually know what's going on and being able to enhance and continue to kind of push the envelope with the technology, I think that's where we can really start to kind of push this off into the future and being able to kind of evolve and being able to even drive, where the industry goes.
Tim Hardin, last thoughts on this?
Well, I think I'll just go back to what Joe said early on, which is many times it's not about saving money. It's about saving the customer. That equates to your long-term growth. But so many times we go into these exercises and we think, well, we've got to save some money. We're spending too much here. And what you find out is it's really not about that. It's about the customer experience, because in a world of transparency where all of us can see and track, like you said, Ted, with military precision, the things that are going on in their lives, well, then it's really about the experience, because everybody sees the same information. So to John's point, we enjoy the process. I'd say that one of the benefits we have with Epicor is having some of these organizations that have joined us now, like Elite Extra, like Indigo, et cetera, in the automotive space. They all come from that same whiteboard session with a group of dealers that said, here's how it ought to work. And so I think that, we have the opportunity now to take some of these assets and really expand them further and help our customers transform the experience for their customers.
So, Tim, for our audience watching today, who'd like to take the next step and learn more, or maybe have some of their questions answered, Tim, what's the best way for our Fixed Ops Roundtable audience to learn more?
Well, certainly everybody you see here is available, but the best courses go to epicor.com, and we'll make sure that that takes you directly to the content associated with Elite Extra, and you can find a lot more out about what we're doing in automotive, but certainly about how to get the right part to the right place at the right time.
Jon, fascinating and great to learn about Elite Extra today. So thank you for being here with us, Jon Ward.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you, Ted.
And Joe, McBeth, thank you for opening the door to so many other retailers to learn more about this and what you're doing. And Joe, this is the real world. This is the parts department today.
Yep, it really is. And I appreciate y'all very much having me on today. Learning experience for me as well. But the technology is not going anywhere. So I would suggest, if you're not using it today, you need to look at something, do something.
Tim Hardin, great topic. Thank you so much on behalf of the Roundtable for bringing this to our attention. Love it.
Thanks a lot, Ted. It's always a pleasure.
Tim Hardin, everybody, Jon Ward, Joe McBeth, the team from Epicor here with us today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Whether you consider it evolutionary or revolutionary, change is reshaping the franchise dealer business. And we're not talking about electric vehicles. There's another promising opportunity that demands your attention. It's the fast-growing and increasingly lucrative customer pay parts, tire, and service market. Consider what's happening around you. Average vehicle age is at an all-time high and rising faster than ever. More than 60% of passenger vehicles are 8 years old or older. 25% are at least 16 years of age. Together, this represents 244 million prospective parts, tire, and service targets. We say prospective because the vast majority of these vehicles are being serviced outside the franchise dealer channel. Would you like to capture your share of this nearly $400 billion opportunity? Epicor is ready to help. Our solutions are enabling thousands of automotive businesses to address every customer pay parts, tire, and service opportunity for virtually any vehicle, regardless of make, model, or year. We're helping service providers build customer relationships spanning the full vehicle lifecycle, from the end of the factory warranty to the day the vehicle is scrapped. We're putting the industry's most complete parts, tire, and labor data at the fingertips of thousands of service advisors every day. We've created a faster, more accurate estimating process for customer pay jobs that helps dealers increase average RO and service lane productivity. We offer real-time information on local parts and tire availability and pricing to speed every job, increase customer satisfaction, and boost the dealer's absorption rate. And we're helping parts departments establish real-time visibility and control of their inventories to increase efficiency and reduce operating costs. Epicor is ready to help your fixed ops teams achieve the same impressive results. Own every non-warranty parts, tire, and service opportunity, all makes, all models, all customers. Now you can with Epicor. Contact us today to learn more.
Keep it real with our next speaker, Keri Cohen, the Chief Marketing Officer at CallRevu.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Sarah Vantine. We have a very special guest on this panel today, Keri Cohen, Chief Marketing Officer of CallRevu. Keri, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Ted, we've got a really amazing set of questions for Keri today. I'm really excited to get started.
It is. And Keri, welcome. You've got some big proponents here of CallRevu and the work that you do. Maybe if you wouldn't mind, first of all, for our viewers, for the few who don't know what CallRevu does, give us a little background and a little bit maybe of your background as well.
Sure, of course, I'd be happy to. So I joined CallRevu actually fairly recently, this past November. Before that, I was at Publicis Group. So I have a large background in digital marketing, advertising, and business digital transformation. And that said, this is my first full immersion into automotive retail. That said, I've had auto groups under my portfolio before, but really excited to have joined CallRevu, at such a pivotal moment where CallRevu began in a car dealership, right? And it began with the notion of, do you have any idea what your salespeople are saying on the floor on the phones? And so out of that notion and that, insight, right, just from someone walking in through the dealership, CallRevu was born to say, like, okay, how can we actually ensure that we have a pulse and a beat on what is being said in our dealership, how the people in our dealership are handling all of the calls. And so CallRevu was born, which is really a intelligent communication solution that really allows you to not just track and monitor your calls, but really pulls in insights that are actionable so that you're able to take those, build on them, hone in on where things might need to be looked at for opportunity gaps or performance, so that you really have a pulse on everything happening within your dealership without having to be everywhere all at once.
Wow. How badly needed is that, Keri? And with what's happened in the last couple of years, I know a lot of dealerships got away from training, in-person training, let's say. Give us some, and you've got a very supportive group here. Why is training essential for fixed operations, within dealerships?
When you think about the component of training, whatever industry you're in, there is a large amount of that can often get overlooked. And especially when you're in an industry like automotive retail, where, at least 97% of your day, right, is customer facing. The customer is your bread and butter. And without that customer experience and having a full understanding and a pulse on how to communicate, how to have these interactions, there really is then a large gap and a missed opportunity. And so, the notion and component of training, often gets spoken about in terms of the sales floor. What are the salespeople saying, like on the phones and the calls? But quite frankly, front of house and back of house are just equally important. Like, there are many synergies where they overlap, but at the end of the day, you're still talking about that same important entity, which is your customer, which is that person. And so having training at the front of the house without really taking care to look at, okay, the fixed ops department, they are having these interactions. Quite frankly, they're probably having them even more. And the opportunities they have during these conversations to really leverage the customer experience, not just from the customer satisfaction end of things, but also think about the ability to upsell, to cross-sell, to really key in and hone in on things that the customer may actually forgot that they need or may actually not be thinking about. So putting the time into training for all facets of the dealership is supremely important. And, unfortunately, it does tend to get overlooked sometimes.
Well, Keri, you said a word that is really top of mind in a lot of dealerships right now, and that was around communication. And I'm fascinated because, you talked a little bit a minute ago about the training components and how important it is for that customer experience to have a unified approach. How do you ensure that training programs are aligned with the diverse roles and responsibilities within the fixed ops department?
So, cohesiveness is one of those things that really starts with all the team members, and, having a both human and perhaps tech leverage component to your training is going to allow for that cohesiveness so that you are training everyone with the same set of information, whether it's the cadence, the tone, the mannerisms, the types of things that you really want your employees, whether it's front of house, back of house, et cetera, to be hitting on, is going to enable that there's a common understanding of processes, goals, and then what the customer service standards are. And it's this type of unity that is really going to lead to like a more consistent, customer experience and ultimately a more collaborative work environment. So
I know Keri, CallRevu provides some amazing tools, with views into customer sentiment and a lot of things that give dealers an advantage by having the call or being on the CallRevu platform. Talk to us a little bit more about that human-led training and why that continues to play such an important role in developing talent within fixed ops.
Sure. So, training interplays into a component, right? Whether you're a dealership or quite frankly, even if you're a software company like us, for example. So at the core of our solution, right, we are able to dial in, for lack of a better pun, and really monitor calls, extracting insights and analytics. Well, in order to really facilitate the ability for our customers and our dealers to action on these, it's like, okay, well, how do you do that? What are you looking at? You're just sending me data. And so training on the data is actually just as important, when you're using these tools within your dealership. And so, there is the component of CallRevu training in-house, which has obviously a number of different specialists that are SMEs in the platform, and not just the platform, but how to really utilize it and leverage it for your specific needs. Because no two people are alike, no two dealerships are alike. So the needs and what's important is going to be different for everyone. So really honing in and taking the time to make that sort of training available to all of our customers is vital so that they're not just understanding how to log in, how to pull up a dashboard, how to download a report, but really how to use it to the best of their abilities so that all of this data and all of this knowledge and insights that they're gaining, like they know what to do with it and how to do it, right? How are you going to use that to inform performance decisions? How are you going to use it? A perfect example might be, you see, the number of calls for oil changes seems to spike at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. Okay, well, at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday, do you have enough staffing equipped to handle the volume of calls or people coming in with these types of requests? And so it's really training on how to action these insights and then how to scale it, right? when you're talking about training, especially in person-to-person form, especially if you're a single trainer, right? Whether it's someone that you have in-house or someone you're using out of house, a person can only be in so many places at one time. So it's actually also leveraging technology for training components to be able to take the skill sets and take the meat and potatoes of what your trainers may be honing in on, and then skill build on that, and to enable anyone that is needing to level up what they're doing to really put it into practice. So it's not just okay, well, we had a training session, it's kind of one and done. I know we're going to have another training session maybe next quarter. In between, in the meantime, I'll kind of think about it in the back of my mind, but it might just fall to the wayside. Leveraging technologies such as in AI component training, which is something, that CallRevu previewed at NEDA earlier this year, which was our AI call challenge, where we rolled out the prototype for all people attending this year to go into a simulated phone booth and try and set an appointment against AI Erica or AI Derrek. And it's this role play that is enabling anyone in your dealership to sit there and say, okay, I'm going toe to toe against someone. You don't necessarily want people practicing on real life customers, right? So what's a better way to do it than, okay, you can actually have something at scale where you're taking something that you might have learned from a sales trainer or a back of house trainer or any sort of trainer, dealer trainer in person. Okay, how can you practice and apply in the meantime while leveraging technology such as an AI role play trainer is something that obviously is going to help you do that at an instant, at scale, at the ready, so that everyone within your dealership has the ability to practice without feeling like a million people are watching them or that they're going toe to toe with another human. So,
Keri, I love how you wove in the elements of the technology with your people and the human-led component. But something that you just said really sticks out to me. And it sounds like the incorporation of AI, it really gives people the opportunity to almost go into like a flight simulator type of environment. It's like a pilot getting ready, to learn how to fly. They get that opportunity to really engage with somebody that, in a no stakes scenario. So how does incorporating AI into the training programs ultimately enhance that learning experience for the fixed ops staff?
Exactly. So, and I'm glad that you said that. So enhancing is like the key takeaway, where oftentimes when you hear AI, especially AI in training, it's like, oh, so you're telling me that I'm just going to get trained by a bot, or I'm just going to have to log in and do some sort of like, computer generated like chat bot where you're typing in things. Well, something that we actually earlier this month actually announced is our test track, which is building upon the AI call challenge that we rolled out at NADA to really bring together the full AI role play training experience that will be released in the second half of this year. And what it is really just that. It's enhancing training with a personalized learning experience and data-driven insights that is going to allow anyone using it to really address performance gaps. So you have tools like this that can simulate things, whether it's AI-driven quizzes or on-demand learning that, is not only effective and engaging, but it's also something that is repeatable that you can go back to. And so it isn't necessarily tailored just to the newbie in the dealership that's starting out day one, cold turkey, and needs, the 101. It's speaking to that person, but it's also speaking to the person that has been in the industry and perhaps has been, at your dealership for 50 years, where it gives them the ability to do this in an environment where they can build their confidence and competence like at their own pace, in their own environment. It's not saying like, hey, I know you've been doing this for 50 years, but you're going to sit in a room, next to Ted, who just started yesterday and has never done this before, which, obviously can be a little uncomfortable for both sides of the coin. Leveraging this in tandem with human training is something that allows you then to kind of take away that facade and any of like the stickiness that might be around that.
We're speaking today to Keri Cohen. She's the Chief Marketing Officer at CallRevu, callrevu.com, a great friend of the retail community. Keri, how can dealerships today scale their training efforts to accommodate growth and changes in the industry? Because there's a lot of changes happening all the time. It's a fast-moving department, fixed op service and parts, without compromising quality.
What is, and that's probably the biggest challenges, right? Whether it's the customer demands or the industry at large, like everything is happening and evolving at such a quick pace. Keeping up with that can often seem like very daunting from a time perspective, but also from like the resources and the allocation. Like, what does it look like if you're only leveraging in-person workshops with in-person trainers? They can only be so many places at once. You may only have so much budget. And so it's really leveraging both these types of like in-person workshops and digital platforms that are really going to allow you to accommodate different learning styles, different schedules, but also at scale. So someone may only have time to carve out at 8:30 at night to do some of their training. Well, you don't have a sales trainer or a back of house trainer or someone that's available at that time. They're probably getting ready for bed or having dinner. And so this allows you that ability by leveraging both sides of that to really have a holistic take on things that is not going to be a drain on the resources, but also allow you to stay of the moment, right? Because if you're talking about in-person workshops and training, those facilitators obviously are going to be SMEs and the best of the best in their space. So part of their role, right, is staying on top of the market and what's happening. When you're leveraging digital platforms, such as like an AI trainer, well, you have the ability to feed into it. What is the information that's top of mind? Are there new features or new offerings within your dealership that you really would like to be honed in on? And how does that interplay into customer sentiment? Some of the top keywording trends that you're hearing from your call monitoring analytics, and really allows you then, because this is an AI model, to do that at scale where you're able to help feed it in real time scripts that you might want to use, that you might want to hone in on, to really start learning and building on top of that at a pace that, if it were up to just solely humans, probably would not be able to keep up with. So.
Keri, I know a lot of our listeners today are probably thinking about all of the different components that you've mentioned with the training and the AI and all these different elements that their fixed op staff can take advantage of. And, from my experience in retail, one of the things that often comes up when somebody's considering a training program or considering enhancing the learning that their people are getting is the challenges that happen when it comes to scaling, and how do you get that training out to everybody when you also have to meet the needs of your customers. So what challenges do dealerships face when scaling up their training, and how can these be overcome with what CallRevu is doing?
A lot of the challenges really come down to, I'd say prioritization interplayed with scheduling, right? Like, it's just a nature of the beast where there's only so much time in a day, and like, how do you scale that? And so it's establishing your own internal framework of, these are the KPIs for my dealership. These are the types of things that are important that I really, really would love, my employees, everyone within the dealership, to hone in on and to have a very cohesive way in which they're approaching all these different scenarios, and then leveraging technology to build onto that so that they are able to actually overcome obstacles of timing, of resources, of scheduling conflicts. So kind of take some of like the admin stickiness out of things, right? Versus like, hey, like so-and-so, these 5 people can attend training this day, but these other 17 people can't. It helps alleviate some of that burden that traditionally, if you're only leveraging one type of training method, you would have. So,
Keri, what metrics, and it's always going to come up, the dealer's going to ask, what metrics, or you mentioned KPIs, what indicators do you find most useful when measuring the success of such a training program?
So for types of training programs, whether it's in person or leveraging digital platforms, such as like an AI trainer, it's going to really be a combination of performance metrics, feedback surveys, and quite frankly, like direct observation of the application in a day-to-day setting. That said, if you are utilizing a call monitoring solution, right, you're able to also understand and get insights into the performance within your dealership. And so you can see and build in customized keyword lists of, okay, these were the top 10 things that I really wanted everyone to hit on, or these are the 5 things that I wanted people within my dealership to stay away from when they're engaging with customers. You can see in these dashboards and reporting, right? Are they hitting these? Are they not hitting these? Where are the gaps that need to be closed? And so a combination of that, and then with a lot of AI trainers, such as our test track that will be rolled out later this year. After you have someone going through with the AI trainer in these role-playing scenarios, you're actually getting a report card. So you can see these are the areas that, this person really, you excelled in during your role play. These are the areas that maybe perhaps you didn't score as well. So there's opportunity for improvement, so that you're then able to see and build upon, okay, well, my next go around, my next session, and see where that stacks up. So you're also really able to measure your performance, at the individual level, so that you're having that personal accountability. And then also from obviously the larger macro level of, performance if you are managing the dealership. So.
Wonderful. So looking ahead, Keri, final question for today. Any emerging trends that you're seeing in training that could impact how fixed ops teams are trained? I know you alluded to some things you have coming a little bit later this year.
Yeah, the biggest emerging trend really is the increasing use of technology. The readily availability of technology and at scale is something that is not slowing down. But also what's happening is there is the element of taking that care to understand how to leverage technical training and predictive analytics to really customize training needs, where it's not necessarily, oh, we've created a bot, let's just have a dialogue with it. It's how are you using these analytics and how are you calibrating the algorithm to really build upon at scale in an educational way that you're able to integrate these trends, integrate these insights, and continuously learn, build upon them. And then, even exploring new methodologies that have been introduced by utilizing technology in a way that you're able to not only have instantaneous feedback, but then also have that look back so that you can use that to build looking ahead and looking forward.
Very grateful today to have you with us, Keri. CallRevu, again, great friend of the Fixed Ops Roundtable and community. Keri, if our audience wants to learn more about CallRevu and what you can do to help them, or if they just have questions, what's the best way to take the next step? I see your URL scrolling across the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, visit callrevu.com. It's the easiest way to reach us. And you can also, follow us on social. We're across all of the platforms. So, definitely stay tuned to that, whether it's the site or social, for updates or just to get in touch.
Great. Sarah, so much happening in this space. I know you followed it and been a big part of it for a long time. But Sarah, it's very exciting to see what's coming.
The future is really bright for communications, and CallRevu is an amazing partner in automotive.
So, Keri, on behalf of the Fixed Ops Roundtable, thank you so much for your time with us here today.
Thank you both for having me.
Everybody, Keri Cohen with CallRevu here with us today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Our revolutionary pop-up events have sparked a new wave of growth and innovation.
Become part of the brand that is shaping retail fixed operations at fixedopsroundtablecertified.com.
Today's lineup was off the hook. Remember to pull out your flip phones and vote for our Best Practice Awards that will be announced at the end of the event. We'll see you tomorrow for day 4 of the Fixed Ops Roundtable's 90's Rewind event. Catch you later.